everybody. Good evening. Welcome to the stream. It's great to have all of you here. This is going to be a bit of a follow-up from a series that we've been having an ongoing review of, Norah Saga. We've done up to issue 4 thus far, discussed the first 3 issues quite a while ago now, actually. Completely different review panel. Evolved a little bit for issue 4. Completely different cast of characters showed up for that review. And now we're going to be wrapping it up with the full season 1 review, which includes issues 5 and 6. 5 and 6, they did not release in physical in stores individually, as the other issues did. But you were able to get them if you backed the Omnibus crowdfund. And that is the only way you were able to get the conclusion to the Norah Saga storyline. So we have that for you tonight. We have one of the original reviewers joining us to give us some continuity and somebody new, so to give a fresh perspective as well. I hope all of you stick around and enjoy that. So as far as the people who will be sticking around, it's too late to leave now. You're all trapped. The doors have been closed. The theater will be locked for the duration of the performance. So joining us tonight, our captive audience is Jonah Sweet. He says Shank. Shank is Kelsey's new book, so definitely looking forward to that. Want to hear a lot more about it when Kelsey joins us a little bit later. We'll get to pick his brain a little bit and see what's up with Shank. Linkovich, Chamovsky, he says, here for Kelsey, fingers crossed, no Twitless. Oh, well, the gods do favor you, Linkovich, no Twitless tonight. So kudos to you. And can you please cross your fingers for $1 million for me? Because I sure could use it. Wilberforce is here. He says, Twitless is too busy doing a New York Times crossword puzzle. Those do consume his evenings quite often, and they do take a while to complete. So, you know, we won't be hearing from him for a bit. Well Hung says, you are streaming over Dean and Vicky. I'm calling the UN. Well, certainly need to get the UN involved in that. Jay Dalla is here. He says, oi, oi, I guess, or we. I don't know. Jay Dalla, speak English. What else do we have? That yellow spider guy says, F off, well read. F off to you, good sir. So this is how gentlemen greet each other on the internet. We just say F off to one another, tip our hats, and go along our merry way. So speaking of tipping their hat, we have somebody who's part of a hat group. So, and he's brought his hat with him. Welcome, Admiral.
Hey, what's good?
Good to have you. So thank you for joining us tonight. And of course, we have our regular hatter. He hats everyone, especially all of you in the chat.
Good evening, Carrot.
Good evening, Moonshine. Hatter number 1. So you two hatters, you both read Norah Saga. If not, you are not welcome here, and please see your way out.
I read it.
Oh, okay, good. One of you can stay.
I can leave now, right?
Yeah. Well, you won't get paid, so unfortunately.
I don't get paid either way.
Oh, well, you know, that's because the checks always bounce. But, you know, I try my best. It's I guess the entire series this time, so it's going to be a bit longer than what we normally go through. It's usually just
here's a
couple
more
of issues.
important point.
I do need to clean my room.
Yeah. Jordan Peterson demands it.
Yeah. I don't like Jordan Peterson. He cries too much.
He does cry quite a bit, and he talks like Kermit, so it's odd.
Yeah.
I mean, do we really fault a man for crying in this day and age?
Yes.
At least he's still got all his man parts. Come on. Cut the guy some slack. He's teaching he's teaching people to clean their rooms.
We've moved on from Jordan Peterson.
All right. Yes. There we go. Norah Saga season 1. I'm going to drink for this review. I hope you guys don't mind.
So how do you pronounce this? Is it Fosagrim? Did you guys decide on how to pronounce this?
Fosagrim.
Is that correct? Well read?
Yes.
Is that how Twitless pronounced it?
I don't know. I haven't spoken to Twitless about this book.
But he reviewed this book, didn't he? The fourth one?
That's a distant memory that happened in a faraway land. In a different Fosagrim. So yeah, Song of the Fossagrim is the season 1 of the Norah saga. I shouldn't be saying the in front of everything, of course. Norah's saga, but it's about a high school outcast that channels her inner warrior to face the Norse gods standing between her and home. I think I remember. Actually, I was. We talked about this a little earlier, but I was one of the reviewers. I think for the first 3 issues.
Yes, and you hated her.
Well, I didn't understand the motivations.
Yeah, I guess you've never met a teenage girl before. Yes.
Do teenage girls wear hats like that? Admiral, you would know.
She's from Newfoundland, maybe.
Why the fuck would I know? And
it's in winter.
I feel like this book was for like young emo chicks. This wasn't for like anyone else to read. I just got this for the Kelsey art. The Kelsey art is phenomenal, but the overall writing and tone is like geared towards like a 10 to 14 like year old girl, but yeah, it's very competently written in that style.
Oh, should we highlight this comment?
We shall. Never met a teenage girl unlike Puma Fist, says Well Hung and Done.
Yeah,
I mean, Puma Fist might love this book. I don't know.
Let's not reference Puma Fist when we talk about other people's work.
You could show it to his girlfriend.
Okay, so you say it's dripping with teenage angst. Did you feel that way as well, Moonshine?
No.
All right,
I don't think it's angst. It's just like geared towards that audience.
Yeah, it's definitely, it's for, preteen, young teen girls. Like if they are about to enter high school, I mean, that's who Norah is. That's who the audience is.
Well, so the first few issues, we're not going to focus too much on them because we've reviewed already up to issue 4. We'd like to focus a little more discussion on 5 and 6. But like just for an overview to catch everybody up, could you give us like a synopsis and your brief impressions on what you thought of the first 4 chapters of this omnibus?
So it's essentially Alice in Wonderland if you crash your truck into a lake and you go back in time to when the Vikings were in Canada. So Norah is a high school girl. Their family has moved, her mother has died, and she doesn't get along with the new students because she's a country gal and she's in a city now.
Mm-hmm.
And then suppose her mother was really into like archaeology and like the Vikings that used to be in Canada. So that's the connection. She somehow gets transported into another world, which apparently has happened to other people, and she wants to get back. And she's interacting with this Viking tribe, and they know something about what she needs to do because there's someone that came back to them in the 80s, it seems like. So the whole story is her trying to get back, and there are mythical creatures like trolls and gods and stuff. It's not just perfectly historical, but that's what it is. It's kind of like an Alice in Wonderland, but grounded a little bit more in reality.
Yeah, it's like something like that. Alice in Wonderland, like Lion Witch in the Wardrobe type, just like going to another universe type thing. And then there's like aspects of, she has her phone, which is like her tie to the present day or whatever. And there's like that whole interplay of modern and old shit, like Viking mythology. The Viking mythology is very like, just like minorly sprinkled in, which,
yeah, it's really more of like the Norse gods and stuff, and then you have some Vikings that are worshiping them. It's got some historical facts or speculation about what the Vikings might have been doing in Canada, I guess. But
yeah,
there's a heavy emphasis though on magic. Am I correct?
Yes, yeah. You have gods directly interacting with them, and you got trolls and the Fossagrim and things like that going on.
And is Nora at the center of all of this magic in some way? How is she connected to this world other than being some outsider lost in it?
The connection seems to be her mother, because her mother apparently really liked Loki, and it's heavily implied that Loki intentionally pulled Norah here for some ulterior motive that he wants, which apparently is to send him to the present, I guess, or something like that.
Yeah, there's some like Loki cult that's like the thing that's like a consistent thing throughout it, and then ties it to her mom, who's disappeared. And then if we want to get into the last two books, they resolve that kind of story in a way.
I wanted to focus though on the first four. So, tonally, when you were reading the first four issues, I think we indicated where issue 5 picks up, but you felt that the way the character was being written had a different emphasis throughout the first part of the books. Did you want to describe that a little bit, Admiral? Where did you think the direction was going there?
Just I think tonally the writing was more like a young adult like style writing, kind of like comical, more like emphasis on humor and or the humor that they were trying to represent in the book. I just felt like it was written like more of a young adult graphic novel versus like a comic book, whereas the second two chapters felt more like comic booky to me, like more generic comic book writing. Not that it was like generic writing, just more like what you would get from a comic book in general.
Did it shift focus at all from the first four issues to the last two?
I guess the first four were more about kind of her falling into that world and getting a sense of what's going on there and the conflicts, and then also her potential way back and starting that. Whereas the second two parts were more of like what's going to be the driving emphasis of the story going forward.
What about you, Moonshine? Did you have similar impressions in the first four issues?
I mean, there's a couple of, I don't know, idioms that were being used that kind of seem very, I don't know, modern day that are used, which is fine because Norah is in that world, but they seem kind of forced, I guess, placed into the dialogue. I would say what's really, so once you get into the fact that Norah is in the story and she wants to get back, she's sent off on a mission to get the Fosgrim song and play it, and then a portal will open. But she's sent off with Astrid, who's like a older girl, and then Nandor, which I believe they're brother and sister, but he's pretty much the comic relief. And it seemed like he didn't have any reason to be there, at least in the first three issues that I read. He's just there to make jokes, but at most times I would say he doesn't need to be there at all. So I think that was the weakness, is that those three character interactions, and really all you needed was Norah and Astrid, because Nandor wasn't really doing anything in the story.
Yeah. There was some weird stuff too with like Astrid later. It's not in like the fourth part. It's more towards the end. Where just like I feel like the tone of the character also switched. Like she became much more like pessimistic. But we can talk about that later. But yeah, no, in the first four ones, yeah, it was kind of just connecting those characters and starting the adventure. The weird part was definitely that the Vikings kind of adapt to the situation super easily. I guess you can explain that way with that it's happened before, but yeah, that was kind of weird. Like all the modern inserts from Norah, like having the phone and all that stuff, the Vikings just like don't really care, which is kind of I think speaking to that tonally being a like young adult fiction thing where it's just kind of oddball.
Well, I mean, I think the reason for that is like it's not actual Vikings; it's Vikings that magic happens to them constantly. So for them,
Yeah,
it's
they have
easy to
like
explain away.
magic.
Oh, you just have different types of magic.
Yeah.
Well Hung and Dung says that's not a Viking style sword she has. It's a medieval bastard or hand and half sword. Cross guard is wrong unless it's very late Viking, and by then the Norse gods were gone and replaced by Christianity.
Is that the? Is he talking about the cover
Hmm.
image,
Believe so.
or can we see
Uh,
it?
yes, you may. There we are.
I'm wondering if that's. She actually doesn't really have a sword, but there is a sword which looks like that. Yeah, I think that's like the sacred sword of the village that she's with.
Mhm.
And that plays into part because a message is being sent to the president on it. So now, if there's a reason why it doesn't actually look like a classic Viking sword, or if just the creators didn't really know what swords are supposed to look like, but that does play a part in terms of like Loki transmitting a message. But she doesn't really use that sword, as far as I recall.
Nah, she never uses it. Also, towards the end, they're like, there's 150 of them in the world. It's like, okay. So I guess it's not like that unique of a sword.
Also, pick us up from where issue 5 starts off then. Do we have a change in conflict at that point, or does it pretty much follow the same track as the last 4 issues?
More or less follows the same track.
Isn't not an Ulfberht?
Yes.
Ulfbert?
Yeah, that's the name of the sword.
Okay. Isn't not is double negative, so is an Ulfberht.
Yes.
Well, according to the book, an Oathbert sword is dated around the 9th century and only 150 have been found. That's all it tells us about this type of sword.
Okay. And so, what is the main conflict that picks up with issue 5? How does the story focus at that point?
Well, it's the subtitle, the Song of Fosgrim. So the Fosgrim has been captured by, I guess, what we'll call the evil Viking tribe, and they need to free the tribe. But that tribe is also going to attack uh, Astrid's family and people. So this is the part where they split up. Nando is supposed to go run and get ahead of their horses because they have to go through a forest, but he can go on foot, which supposedly will be faster. So they've split up the group. They've given Nander something to do, which is nice, and they're giving a little bit of conflict between Astrid and Norah, because Norah kind of always comes up with ideas that are kind of crazy, and Astrid starts to snap at her, is like, your ideas are bad. Why do you always say these things? So it's kind of putting a little conflict and character development between the two of them, whereas before they kind of just did things. So you're at least getting some sort of interaction between them now.
Yeah, definitely. Like, she starts to be like, oh, you're selfish, you know, you don't care about other people's problems, just shit like that.
Yeah, because Nora keeps saying, I need to find my father, but here they're reeling, oh, Astrid's village is being attacked, and Nora doesn't really care about that, so she gets Astrid to snap at her at this point.
Yeah. Which is like good character development, you know? It's like, oh, well, right now my father is about to like be killed by this horde of Vikings. So, yeah.
Did it make for a more engaging read, or did you feel that it was pretty much par for the course with the rest of the book?
The whole like final battle stuff was kind of quick. Um, I thought it was good though. I thought they did a good job. Um, and then yeah, it all just tied into the end of it. Um, but yeah, the other half of that was them just finding the Fosgrim and being like showing that Loki was kind of just the main like bad character and developing that storyline a little more, and then also relaying that to like the modern times storyline. That's still the consistent villain.
What did you think, Moonshine? Did you feel like the book picked up its pace at that point when it was focused on the characterization?
Well, I mean, the book never really dawdled too much. I mean, I guess for at the very beginning, you got her standard life in Canada stuff for like half a story. So if that bored you, then yes, it's faster than that. But I think it's the least well plotted, so all the characters are doing realistic things. So you don't have Norah and Astrid trying to take down a whole Viking horde when they're just young girls, which would have been pretty unrealistic. So you've plotted it such that they're leaving to go to attack her father's tribe. So there's only 2 people left with the Fosgrim. So they just need to take down 2 guys. So Astrid's taking them down. Nora's freeing the Fosgrim, and Nando's going off to try to get ahead of them. Now they do have Nando not do that. He actually confronts them. So you think he should just be killed, but that's plotted rather well. So essentially the Fosgrim is magical. So since they free him, he agrees to play a song. And his song also makes the entire evil Viking tribe go to sleep. So I mean it's set up in such a way that characters aren't doing like superhuman things when they really shouldn't be able to. So that works pretty well.
Yeah.
It sounds like the action picks up a little bit in this 5th issue.
I mean not too much. It's just Astrid beating up a couple of guys and freeing some guys. Now, the final one, yes, there's like a bit major battle happening. But in this one, it's more of kind of what the Fosgrim is and what he's doing and his powers and that. And then essentially they return. Nora's going to go and return to them, but then her phone has ran out of energy, so she can't return. So that's how the 5th book ends.
It doesn't feel superfluous in any way. It feels essential, given that you're getting these extra pieces about the characters and new characters as well.
Well, I mean, go ahead.
Go ahead. Oh, well, yeah, they tie in like the little science like angle from the beginning and stuff to overcome the issue and the tension built by having like the grave shown at the end of the 4th episode or the 4th book. But yeah, no, I don't know. There were some good like tie-ins and things, and it didn't feel like forced or anything like that.
Metal Movies and Brewskis says, I read the 1st issue with my kid. It was pretty fun. It was kind of like a Norse Wizard of Oz. I need to pick up the remaining issues. It would be nice if issues 5 and 6 could be made available digitally as well, in addition to the other 4 that were in the past. I was hoping to pick those up that way.
Or if you could just order the book somewhere. Because at the moment, I don't think there's any way to get it unless you back the campaign. So that's kind of a shame.
Yes. For all the readers that were following along and purchasing issues at Walmart, it would be nice to have some option to be able to get those last 2 issues. But
damn, I should have bought a bunch of issues of this and sold on eBay.
I was scouring eBay for days looking for a copy because
really?
I was late to getting the omnibus, and I kept thinking, they'll release the last 2 digitally. Why wouldn't they? And no, I didn't see copies in time. So this is all we have. You 2 have the only 2 copies in known existence ever.
Damn.
Yeah, I would think if you want action, the 6th issue is where the action is. It also has a nice callback that Norah does like science, so she recharges her battery with potatoes and wires from the previous guy's Walkman. I don't know if that technically would work, but we can say it'll work. So it's fun that it has pieces of the character from the 1st chapter play into her solving her problem. And the troll comes back from, I think, the 3rd issue because the evil Vikings use it to break the magical power. So, I mean, you got all these things kind of all culminating in the final act, which is what you should be doing.
Yeah, definitely.
The colors are also very brilliant, and like the art design where Nora's falling through time when she finally gets her song to open up the portal and things like that. So it's the final issue is probably the best if you had to say any issue compared to another.
Best by which measure, though?
I just told you.
Everything
I said the
resolves.
coloring, the art layout, and the action in the story. So there's 3 things for you.
Okay, so emphasis on action then, but then in addition to aesthetics, coloring, those pieces.
And taking all the key components of the previous issues and putting them together.
What were your thoughts, Admiral, on the last issue?
Definitely pretty much the same thing. Wrapped up a lot of stuff nicely. Brought stuff back from throughout the series. I mean, I probably, experienced it a little different than you guys because I just read like it basically front to back. But no, it definitely had the most action. I thought the art throughout the entire thing was pretty good. I really liked all the Kelsey art. In fact, actually, at the end, when they just had the gallery that was basically
The
all
cover.
these like posters you would get, that was like one of my favorite parts of it was just seeing all those spreads and splashes of like Kelsey art. But
yeah, the covers are amazing. All the details you put them in, the colors.
But yeah,
I mean, they're pseudo covers because there's not individual issues. But
yeah,
I would say Kelsey made some odd choices in issue 3, so that's the art I probably like the least.
um,
That was the one with the troll.
that was
I
the
mean,
one with the
we've
troll.
already covered that in previous reviews. But I think you kind of went back, like the coloring and like the darkness and light that were really heavily present in issue 1. He kind of brings back in 4 and 6 when things are happening at night. So I mean, Kelsey's always a genius with colors. So.
Yeah, I guess that beach part or part where they're by the lake, that's a little washed out. But
I mean,
yeah,
but
other
that's
than
the
that,
theme. It's supposed to be like dawn and the lights
it's
coming in.
dreary.
It's intentional. I mean, I guess you could say if he succeeded or not.
But yeah, I really like the art throughout it, definitely. Kelsey's got some great facial expressions, and just his style is very dynamic and beautiful.
Yeah, I think I like his more cartoonish style. I mean, no one's ever doing really toonish stuff, but I mean, like when people scream, their mouths are bigger than. Like if you're trying to do photo reference, I don't think you get the emotion and kind of the feel of dynamicism that he gets with kind of exaggerating mouths and facial expression that Kelsey's kind of just great at doing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you want to get into the spoilers of the end of the book, Well-Read?
Yes, let's do that.
So I think this was pretty well done because it's kind of always had this tension between the fact that her mom is gone, and it seems like that completely changed the dynamic of her family. Like she was happy before her mom died, or at least we assume she died, and she's kind of a mopey child now that's just her and her father, and she keeps thinking about her mom, which kind of plays into the fact when she's trying to go back to where she came from. It's like the mage tells her to lock that into her mind. So she does go back. She's in a hospital bed, but she goes up to the nurse and it's like, "Where's my dad?" It's like, "What? Your dad died like 5 years ago. We found his records." And so it's kind of a quantum leap type of thing that happens. All of a sudden, her mom walks in. So she hasn't actually returned to where she belongs. So it's some alternate universe now that her father is dead and her mom is alive. So it completely wraps up the story, but it obviously sets up another problem that she needs to solve. So kind of like a quantum leap where like he solves the problem in one episode, but then he leaps and now he's in another problem he needs to solve. So that's kind of the dynamic it ends with, which I think is at least pretty interesting in a sense. It's not just, oh, she's back home now. But I don't know how they're going to continue it, because the theming of this whole story was, Vikings and stuff, and now she's in the modern day. So like, I guess we'll see where it goes.
Yeah, I assume they're gonna jump back to the past, and they're gonna have Astrid and whatever Nandar be fucking older. Like Nandar will be grown up and actually a warrior, and Astrid will be like leading that clan or something. Her father got the arrow to the chest at the end of the battle. So, yeah, I'm assuming they're gonna, have her go back to that era at some point.
Well, I mean, it's also heavily implied Loki was playing some long game, and so he's obviously going to be involved in all of this. But why specifically Norah is in an alternate dimension, I guess it's if Loki wanted that to happen, or that was just her fault for thinking too much about her mom and not her dad. I guess we'll find out if there's ever any future issues.
Yeah, and yeah, even just like, oh, she jumped back to the wrong dimension for the mom or whatever. Yeah, it could be a bunch of stuff, It could be like, the dad is dead, but the mom is alive and she's been in like a coma or something. It could be anything.
But, yeah, I mean, I guess you could say, oh, it was a dream all along. And
well, let's hope not, but yeah.
it could be if you just didn't want to continue the story. But.
Yeah. But, so yeah, we'll see what they do, but good wrapping up of the series and good setup for future stuff to come.
That's the three characters. It's Norah in the middle, and Astrid and Nandor are the two Viking kids or adults. They never really give us their age. I always assume they must be similar to Norah's age, but we're not really quite certain. Like maybe
they're like a little older.
Astrid's 18 maybe, and Nandor's 16 maybe, something like that. It's definitely implied Astrid is the elder sibling. But.
I mean, is it a satisfactory resolution? It sounds like a lot of things are left open, and a lot of the focus is just on Nora's personal, matters. Having her mother return to her, is that satisfactory in terms of what's been built up through 6 issues of storyline?
Well, I mean, it sets up the Vikings as well, because she's leaving while a battle is happening. Their father is shot. It looks like they're losing. So, there's definitely implied that that's going to matter, because they just kind of lose, it seems, when she leaves. So, you still have these main characters mattering. And it's implied that the leader of her village, her father, took the head, and then his brother was upset, and that he's the one that's been leading the Vikings that have been attacking him. So there's this that's being parallel to Astrid and Nando, who's going to lead the village. So that seems to be what the discussion in the background is.
Yeah, that was the brother. I don't know. That part seems a little rushed as well, but that's why I feel like they're definitely just going to go back to that time period. Also, they tied in that wherever Norah went, they have like Ben the Slayer is there, who's like the guy who left behind all that stuff and had gone through the ice before. They have some like little cutaway where he's like playing in a rock band or something on the TV in like the hospital where she woke up or something.
And Nora's mother being back isn't a good thing. It's because her father is now dead. I mean, she's not happy that when she hears her father is dead, and she's just shocked by her mom. It's kind of, a stinger at the end. It's like, oh, your mom's alive, but your dad is dead.
I mean, it's just satisfactory to have so much left open that essentially you feel like the story has to continue at this point for you to really get any resolution.
I mean, they've named it a season. It feels like the end of a season on a multi-season story. you've settled the conflict of she got lost in the past and now she's returned to the present, but then you've set up another problem. It's pretty standard.
Yeah.
What do you think,
Yeah,
Admiral?
no.
Season 2, or We Revolt?
I mean, it's fine. It wasn't really like the story for me. The art's really what was the main draw for me for getting the book. Like I said, it's just targeted to a different audience than like what I would normally be reading. Um, but yeah, no, it was a competent story. I think for what they're going for, definitely sets up a second part. Um, and yeah, but otherwise, yeah, just self-contained. It did a pretty good job of just going from point A to point B really well.
I mean, technically, you don't need a season 2. It could be at like a Twilight Zone ending where you think you want something and you didn't, and that's the moral of the story and the end. But I have a feeling
Yeah.
since it's called season 1, this isn't the planned end. But I don't know.
What about conceptually? Like you said, Admiral, that tonally maybe this work isn't necessarily your usual taste. But what do you think of this world and the idea of this modern day teenage girl ending up in it? Does all of that seem interesting to you and appeal on
Um,
some aesthetic?
it's whatever. It's not it's not really like anything that is groundbreaking. It's a pretty common like trope, I feel like. Like no part of it feels of the modern versus the Viking times, and the interplay between the two seems like some new conception that I haven't seen before in like media. Um, like it's still a really good story. It does, I think, what it's going for incredibly well. But yeah, no, it's not like anything that's really captured my interest because of some novel idea of how they interplay the modern and the Viking times, the ancient times.
What about you, Moonshine? Was there something unique about this omnibus for you?
Unique. Oh,
Yes.
look, it's TJ.
Oh,
I would say it's probably a story written, yes, it's aimed at girls, but it actually kind of feels something anyone can read. So if you're reading this to your daughter, you're not going to hate the story as you're reading it. And we kind of don't have too many of those. I mean, I guess Starlight Cats was okay, but the story is kind of a little weak as an adult. At least this has theming and conflict and things that at least will attract an adult's attention if they are going to read this. I mean, it's obviously not aimed at adults mainly, but it's a competent story at least.
and does the focus on character development and the elimination of superfluous elements maybe help the target audience to find something to focus and tune into?
I don't know about the target audience, but like if you were to give this to a boy at the beginning, like the first few issues, I would think a boy would have a lot of trouble holding their focus on this sort of thing. If you give them Nander actually doing something, I think that might at least attract some interest from boys rather than just girls. But so that helps.
How dare you gender this work, you bigot?
Too bad that's how kids think.
Yeah, it's definitely like that.
Interesting.
It's fucking boring at the beginning.
I mean,
Brutal.
girls probably relate to, oh, I really want this dress. I mean, but no
Yeah.
boy is going to relate to that.
Yeah. Yeah, I've never really wanted a dress.
Or even
What
just
about-
clothes. I mean, I guess maybe boys would want like Nike sneakers, but other than that, TJ, did you want Nikes when you were a boy?
The fresh is nice.
He doesn't remember when he was a boy. What about the big climax at the end? Doesn't every boy yearn for a happy
Yeah,
ending?
I mean that fighting they probably like again.
Yeah, at the end when he gets an arrow in his chest. It's
Yeah,
I
I mean the
okay,
fighting is
thank
good.
God now I can die.
Whereas in the beginning, all that happens is the village gets ransacked and everyone kind of stands around. So
Yeah, and even that's kind of comical.
Yeah, because Nando says, "Oh, I didn't guard the sword because I fell in the pig pen." Oh, good.
Yeah.
Give me details on the fighting then. What is it that's going to attract boys?
I mean, it's got a
Zero.
very.
This book is made for 14-year-old girls.
I mean, if they were to pick up issue 6, it's got magic. It's got lots of yelling Vikings smashing against magic, and then you got the chains, kind of like maybe in Lord of the Rings when they pull out a troll to smash down the walls type of thing. So I mean, it's got theming like that may attract them. I mean, your main character is still a girl, so it's going to be a little of a reach to try to get boys into this.
Yeah, no, I feel like it's all very Disney, and there's no real super hard stakes or anything. The only thing I mean,
maybe
see
like
attracting like a boy is the art, just because Kelsey's art's really fucking good.
I mean, maybe 60s or 70s Disney's not modern day Disney where everything's happy and everything's good. I mean, there is conflict and sorrow and things like that, but it's definitely not Disney of 2020. But Cinderella, Snow White type of stuff where bad things happen.
Definitely.
Pinocchio, maybe even.
I would just say, it's not like what I'd be looking for if I were like a boy, as far as like violence and conflict or anything like that. Like even the last 2 chapters where we say the most action happens, it's very like tame,
I guess it's kind of like The Lion, the Witch, and the Road Lord, where you got like hundreds of people fighting, but not super violent or anything.
Mm-hmm. Totally. That's like the number one comparison I would draw it to of something that already exists.
But that has both boys and girls, so it tries to appeal to both, whereas your main character is a girl, so you're kind of stuck with that. But
yeah. And it's Vikings instead of Christian bullshit.
Yeah, it's Viking bullshit. It's Norse bullshit.
Oh my goodness, so much bigotry on the stream. Can't believe it. Well, the fact that it is slightly gendered storytelling towards the female demographic, I guess, is obvious when you look at the author. It is a female, Blake Northcott, so she probably does have sensibilities, implicit ones that would appeal to a female readership.
I mean, apparently Patrick Stiles created this story, but we could ask we could have talked to him. He might say, "Yeah, I intended this story for girls." But
well, everything's
always so.
It's always about execution, right? Any concept put into a certain set of hands is always going to take a different form based on the creator who realizes it, from whatever the idea on the page is.
I'm sure when he was creating it, he thought he was like, that was the audience he was going for. There's no way like that anyone,
This is the most macho teenage fantasy you ever read in your life.
I was going for Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
I mean, there is you could get the boys if you do a prequel story on Ben the Slayer, then you could get the boys in. Ben is the boy that we don't see him, but we like see his artifacts. Apparently, he was in the death metal, and he went and tried to find the Fosgrim. So you could get the boys with Ben the Slayer, maybe.
Yeah. Well, they think he's dead. They think like Norah's dead because of the tombstone. So I think, and then they show that little cutaway in the hospital when she wakes up, where it's someone that looks like Ben playing guitar in a band called like Demon Slayer or something.
I think that's just the band he liked, but I don't know.
That's like the band he liked, but they also show like a cutaway where it's that in that second reality.
So
he's
in the loving memory of that band or something.
Well, no, I think he's just going to be in that second universe where the mom's alive and the dad's dead. So instead of dying when he went for the Fosgrim, he got transported there. And that might tie into why the fucking Fossa Grimm already hates Loki. But yeah.
All right, gents, boys, hating on this girl comic. You want to give us your final thoughts, and we'll try to get another boy on the panel to give us his thoughts.
It's a competent story, but yeah, it's definitely if you're like a guy, I don't know. Well, I got it for Kelsey Shan art. Otherwise, I don't know why you'd get it aside from if you have like a daughter to give it to or something like that. I'll probably sell it on eBay, especially now that I know it's rare.
Well, Red can buy it.
Yeah, should have sent it to me.
You want a copy on eBay?
I do. Sunshine.
What?
Give us your boyish thoughts on this girlish story.
I think we've read a few comic books geared at kids, and I think this is probably the best. Like the other ones we read, like they might have had great art, they might have like had some nice moral lessons, but this at least has a plot that is more than surface level, which all the other more kids book, like either Starlight Cats or Common America, it's like if you're an adult, it's almost painful to read some of this. This at least, maybe once you get beyond the first chapter, which is about a girl complaining about getting a dress, I think it's got a decent plot to follow, and it's got character interactions, it's got multiple layers, it's got the kind of government conspiracy about time travel. It's got a lot of different elements that at least can keep your attention. Now, if you don't have kids to give this to, I don't know if I'd suggest go out and get it unless you really like Kelsey's art. But if you do stumble upon it, you might enjoy reading it.
What carries this book? I mean, both of you emphasized Kelsey's art over the story, but do you feel like the two complement each other as the package of marriage, or is it essentially the all Kelsey show for you?
I think it works well in terms of Norah. Like Kelsey's art like tells the story of Norah, and what Norah says feels like what she would say. Some of the other characters I'm a little more iffy on. I mean, I like the change in Nandor for him actually. I mean, he's a bit bumbling, but he actually has grit and wants to do something good. At least he wants. Whereas in the beginning, it almost seemed like he was lying and just skirting responsibility. Here, at the end, he's more like maybe he's trying to take on more than he can do. So I think certain characters get better. Some Astrid fighting with Norah at least gives some tension to the two of them, because Astrid is kind of seems like the dutiful daughter, whereas Norah is kind of doesn't really respect her father's maybe as much as she should. So it's kind of giving that contrast.
Admiral, all Kelsey show, or you still appreciate the writing?
Yeah, no, I mean the writing is good. It's not bad or anything. It like, I guess you kind of asked whether Kelsey's art like suits the writing or something. I think it like suits it, but if he were like drawing on something else, I would like it more probably. You know, is what I would think. But yeah, no, at no point do I feel like the art doesn't complement the story. It's just not what I would typically be buying.
Would either of you buy the season 2 if Kelsey was not on it?
Probably not.
I mean, I review books, so probably, just to say, especially if it really sucked, then I'd be interested in it.
I mean, I just don't like, that was my main appeal for getting the book. So I don't know. That was like my focus for getting the book. So probably not. But I don't think it was a bad story or anything. Like, I think they did a good job of it. It's just not, targeted toward my demographic.
All right. Well, speaking of something targeted towards your demographic, everybody please welcome to the stream, Kelsey.
You guys got it all wrong, man. You don't know what you're talking about. You suck. I'm out of here.
You reviewers.
Oh, we lost Kelsey.
God damn it.
He's found us out. We all just want to be writers, but not good enough to get to the craft.
Yeah.
So we review comics.
Psych.
No, you did it right the first time.
Hey, gentlemen, what's happening?
Yo, what's
Not a
good?
lot.
Yeah,
Greetings.
first of all, I just want to thank you for doing this. I know it's like a chore to like actually read a damn book these days. You know? So I commend you on your efforts, man. Thank you a lot. This means a lot to me because I'm very much a proponent of honest, hard criticism. I want the truth. It's very rare you get the truth from people. They're like, yeah, it's good. Did you read it? Yeah, some of it. You know, like, I mean, so, yeah, I appreciate the effort of going through this. I agree with everything you said.
That's how you win.
Well, the real question we have is there going to be a season 2, though?
That is the question, because like a large part, of course, depends on, you know, the what do you call it? The response. You know, the people like it. Do they want more? And a large part of that, and the fact that it was geared more towards girls, was largely engineered toward the Walmart deal, towards getting it out to a public that is underserved for comics. So we were definitely trying to create something for a demographic that is largely, you know, underserved. Let me use that word again. You know, I don't see a lot of like, you know, comics for young people in general, but just young girls specifically. I guess there is. I mean, I don't know. I don't read these kind of comics myself, so I looked at it as a real challenge.
Well, I mean, I think like Marvel and DC, they have like the veneer of being for girls, but it's like, no, these aren't for girls. They're for like 20 or 30-year-old women, which don't buy comics, so then the comics don't sell. But
yeah, and I don't know what any of that's for. And like what's fascinating is hearing you guys' review from the first 4 issues, and it really kind of made me take up notice, because like you noticed that my art was starting to dip around issue 3.
yeah,
And I think that's largely due to my lack of interest. I was losing interest as a reader, you know, creating the book, because I was not feeling the journey was being laid out in a way that would pay off. But I was willing to kind of go with it because I wanted to see where it would go. So then when I heard your review, I'm not trying to throw anybody under the bus, but I'm going to be extremely honest here. So I hope anybody listening that was involved in this book understands that I believe in being brutally honest about this stuff. But after I heard your review, you brought up a lot of stuff that was on my mind already. And I have a philosophy that if, you know, I can let something go, but if other people are noticing it, then something needs to be changed. And when I got the next issue, it was just kind of more of creating threads, you know, and nothing was starting to be paid off. And I was like, okay, all right, something's got to be done here. And everybody was very busy doing all the other books, and you know, and Patrick Stiles had left. He had gone back to his job at BMI or wherever he was working, and I just think comics weren't for him. You know, it's a real discipline that if you're not in love with it, you know, already, you know, it's very difficult to kind of like, you know, fall in love with this kind of stuff. And what was I saying? But anyway, like you notice that the first half, it's really funny listening to you guys, because you're like, the first half is very like unengaging. It probably wasn't for wasn't for boys. And and then but the last half is probably more appealing for boys. And there's a very interesting dynamic there because the first half of that is written by a woman. The second part, especially the last two issues, are written by men. So there's no there's definitely a reason why it reads that way, but definitely wanted to, when I started this, I wanted Astrid, like I fully intended, just for my own reasoning behind things, I'm like, Astrid has got to be a foil for Norah. She has to like run interference, not interference. What am I thinking of? She has to be run counter arguments to everything Norah wants to do, or at least kind of
present
provide
the alternative perspective. Yeah.
Exactly, and none of that was ever happening. She seemed to be kind of falling in line with what Norah wanted to do, and she was like a yes man after that. And then Nandor was like a non-existent kind of character. I think he was being sorely underserved.
He was the comic relief, but he didn't really need the comic relief. That's what seemed to happen to me. But
yeah, but I want to, you got to have an arc to that. I mean, and especially in the time that this was written and everything that was going on in our society, it was very clear that Norah was in danger of being one of those Mary Sues, and our one male figure was being looked at as like a joke. Oh, am I boring you, motherfucker? I'm just
Get Admiral some scotch.
Yeah. Nah.
I'm gonna have a shot of vodka.
Jar Jar Binks has to become a senator.
Well, here's a
Yeah.
conflicting point of view from Dale A.
Dale A says, I kind of liked the first half more. It was a lot more grounded. The second half was straight up swords and sorcery fantasy. Actually, I was thinking,
that's fascinating.
Your point about the dynamic between the girls, like men. I think men's social dynamics. We.
You're not getting another one.
Yeah. men kind of like, we not butt heads, but like, we like to rib each other, and we like to contrast our opinions, and have discussions that are engaging and not agree on every little thing. Women,
Make Kelsey full screen so we can see this book.
Women, I feel like the natural social dynamic is for them to select an alpha and then the rest to kind of fawn around her, and that's where maybe you're feeling like Asterith is a non-entity and just kind of, in a male term, a yes man. But maybe that's more natural to female social dynamics. And I think naturally by those social dynamics, you end up getting somebody who presents themselves as a Mary Sue. So I don't know how you even escape that when you're talking about like gendered writing and men versus women writing these characters.
All I know is that I wanted all of them to have flaws and to be able to overcome those flaws through learning, like a human being does, and
right.
It didn't really seem like that was either being set up or even kind of addressed. And so like this scene was a real turning point for me in reading it, in that for one thing, I wanted like a real build up to the reveal of Loki. And he just shows up and kind of gives him this bullshit kind of thing to do. And like, I wasn't sure that it made a lot of sense. And and then when it got to the next issue, when they actually got to the village of the bad guys, it was, I don't even know what was happening. I can't even describe what I was reading, and I'm like, okay, we got 2 issues left to really pull this thing together. Like everything that's been set up, with the
science,
the interest in science, the Nandor's journey, where he starts off as a goofball, the idea of Loki and paying off kind of more about what that's all about. Is this a time travel story? Is it a magical realm? All these things kind of like left open, and there was kind of still going on that path of like being more questions being asked and nothing was being answered. So a large part of the last two issues. I mean, it probably felt a little rushed, but that was because we had like such a limited amount of space to address all of these things and get some like killer action in it.
I will have to say the tombstone thing just seemed kind of thrown in there.
I don't know what that is. I don't.
Yeah, it was just there and then it was gone. I'm like, okay.
Well, I mean, I'm trying to think. I mean, I'm not really sure if we even got to address that. I mean, there was definitely some matzo balls hanging out there where we're like, I don't know what to do about this. You know, it doesn't really make sense in the grand scheme of things. So, and we definitely have plans for another one, provided that there is interest. But, you know, as you know, a large portion of this audience here is male, or, you know, not really generated, you know, not really geared towards young readers. That was definitely about the Walmart and trying to find readership that hasn't been really explored or underserved. So, yeah, when we got to the end, it was like I haven't gotten any Viking action. In fact, when we started this, I wanted Viking action. I'm like, we need to start off with like a Viking battle. You know, I want to start off with some balls, you know, and I got this scenario, you know, where it's just like some mannequins in a museum. And I was like, okay. But, you know, the first issue was really solid, in my opinion. I really liked some of what was being set up. And even going into the second issue and third issue, you know, there's some good stuff in there.
I mean, you paid off the bear spray to fight off the wolves, so we
yeah. Again, that was a little wild. I was like, bear spray, you know, that's crazy. But you know, I'm neither Canadian nor female, so I don't know if any of these things, you know, I don't know if part of me was like, I don't know if it makes sense to me because I'm not this demographic. You know, I just have to sell it as best as I can, visually and with the acting and everything, and just hope that the motivations come through. But then when it was very clear that story-wise they weren't coming through, we definitely had to step in and kind of like right the ship. So, but the whole idea with like you were talking about Ben the Slayer, and that's another whole thread where I was like, what are we doing with that? And so he definitely pays off a lot more in the next arc, if there was one, you know. So that's still kind of up in the air whether or not, you know, we want to go that direction. But I get where you guys are coming from, where it's not, you know, it's not really for you. You know, it's not like, you could definitely feel it. It's you know, it's a young female and her journey towards understanding that understanding of humility, really. You know, if I would think of like a theme for this, it's taking the arrogance of youth, you know, and beating her down with life a little bit and teaching her that maybe she doesn't know everything, and that maybe she should maybe listen to some people around her. Maybe her actions are causing pain to the people around her, including her father at the beginning. You know, she was very cruel to him. And I actually really enjoy the twist at the end where, you know, the father she's taken for granted, and she's learned that, you know, she's kind of like really concerned about him throughout the issue, being trapped under the water or everything. And then all of that's taken away, and like mom's there. And, you know, it's like hopefully it's like a really confusing moment for like everybody. It's like, well, what happens now? I mean, there's no resolution with dad, and suddenly mom's there. It's like a whole new dynamic to everything. And we definitely have a lot. I mean, man, I do kind of wish we do go into like a volume 2. I'm still open to the idea. It just depends on how much people are interested, because what we've plotted out for a new season is definitely a lot more action oriented, a lot more mind bending in the crossover between Viking world and the modern times in a much more dynamic way. And I'm one of those guys that like I come from like Frank Miller, Claremont era kind of stuff where every page is like several payoffs. It's not just a kind of a half payoff per issue. No, every page, is so much story going on. So, and I think that Blake comes from more of a modern era storytelling, where like manga, it's paced out over long periods of time. So I think given the opportunity, she would have paid off a lot of these things. But the sacrifice of that is you could be boring the shit out of most of your audience. So
No, well, I mean,
Yeah.
it was kind of paced that this was going to be a lot longer than 6 issues. If
Yeah.
you tried to have any nice kind of resolution at 6 issues, it wasn't heading that way.
Mhm.
So
Yeah,
I mean,
no,
so now you got kind of the conflict. It's kind of like a Twilight Zone ending. It's like, oh, what you wanted the most you got, but it took something else from you that you didn't realize you needed more than you thought. So
yeah, I think you're right. I think it does kind of work as a Twilight Zone kind of thing where provided, I mean, assuming there is no next volume, I think it could stand on its own for anybody that wants to read it. And it is kind of like all crazy. It makes your mind kind of think about, well, where does this go from here? And you can kind of like make up your own story after that. But yeah, I mean, I'm fairly proud of this whole thing for what we managed to accomplish. It's definitely not in my wheelhouse, really. So I looked at it as a real challenge to try to do something for this demographic, for this audience. I think the mistake is that, we were initially selling to this audience, crowdfunding, largely male, to test the waters, and I guess it was built mostly on my artwork for all this and, Blake's fan base, I suppose, to at least get on the ground running. And then hopefully find an audience of, because I've gone to Walmart and seen, I saw a young girl sitting on the floor reading Norah's Saga. And I thought that was like, this is it. It's working. Like I was so excited. I was like, maybe this is going to make them transport them to another realm or something, or at least get on board for some, more storyline. But, that kind of thing was largely out of our control for so many reasons, with distribution and whatnot, how it was rolled out into stores. It was all so new. And I don't know. I think it was one of those things that just required time. And the guy that owned the distribution system of it, I think he passed away and his son took over, and he saw the kind of deal that was given to Allegiance and was like, no, let's cut this off. So we got kind of screwed. So I'm like, the only thing that makes this kind of thing work is time. And that's something I told all the investors too. I was like, just be patient. First issue usually does well in comics. Second issue is generally dropped off. Third issue is either lower or you start to see a leveling out. And if you keep going, you'll see like a buildup and interest. So it takes a lot of time to really build an audience and prove, worthy of that audience. So, I don't know. I no use lamenting the things that we don't have anymore. Let me go get my vodka. Hang on, I'll be right back.
Well, I guess Kelsey can answer that question later. I was going to say that I thought Norah's Saga was like the top seller of their whole project. So I think this one did the best. But
Can I step away, get another glass of wine?
Fine.
All the alcoholics on stream are coming out.
Apparently
Yeah.
so. Well, you should have
I'm
given
on my last
TJ the
beer.
link then. You could have
yeah,
at least
no,
played some music well read. Jeez.
I think the book came together very well. Just reading it all back to back, it was a satisfying story. It's just, yeah, it's definitely geared towards an audience, a different audience, and
There's a shot
yeah,
glass.
I don't know. Really love the art though. So.
You definitely can get this this book with the on the Bass Reeves campaign. There's a combo of the Bass Reeves book by David Williams and Kevin Grievix. I always forget his name. The first thing that pops into my head is Werewolf Guy.
Yeah.
From Underworld.
Don't tell everyone. I gotta sell mine on eBay real quick.
So
okay, yeah. Nah, it's all sold out. Sorry, guys.
Yeah, that
So
Bass Reeves. There's some cover. I forget who did it. It's some guy who does like amazing painted covers. But
oh, that's
that
Andrew
Bass
Robinson.
yeah, dude, that cover is so good.
So
Andrew Robinson's one of the best.
Is there like a legal reason why Allegiance can't sell like issues 5 and 6 on the website yet, the digitals?
I just think they're trying to. I mean, this is just a guess, but from my business brain, I would say that they're trying to point demand toward the books, instead of the individual issues. So I think that's just a business choice. I don't know that if they have any plans to do that in the future, or I'm not sure. I'm honestly not sure at that point. But I'm kind of in favor of digital. You know, a lot of people don't like digital because of piracy and whatnot, but I love piracy. It's weird to say, but I've often had, sometimes those are the only people actually reading my book, because I worked in independence and done very limited print runs, and nobody's reading it, or at least they're not talking about it if they are. So when I go to the pirate sites, and they'll have a little thumbs up, like liked it or didn't like it. And sometimes I would get more than Marvel books, on some of the stuff that people actually read. So I was really like, I'm like, this is like the only gauge I have if any of this is working,
Dale A is asking, does Blake Northcott even write comics anymore?
Apparently she's teaching them at Kubert's school.
Oh, that's interesting.
I suppose. Clearly she's qualified.
This was the highest selling book for Allegiance, though, wasn't it? In Walmart?
It did very well. Yeah, it was definitely the highest selling book at Walmart. And again, we don't have a breakdown, or at least I don't, of, because it's Walmart, it's just mass sales, I guess, of like who actually bought it. We don't have an understanding. Was it just people from Comicsgate or people that read interviews and then went to go get the book, or how much was just pure sell through of people walking through and discovering comics on the shelf? And always like this shot of the helicopter.
Yeah, there you go. Well, I mean, it does, if it wasn't just Comicsgate, it does seem to suggest you're right that like comics geared at girls was a market that needed to be served. But
yeah, and I honestly wish we knew more about the demographics of who bought what, but they're not like, I don't think they're checking off any boxes of who buys what at Walmart. It's just like whatever, so I like to think that it was beginning to work, and if we just had time to do it properly through the course of time, we would have been able to develop these characters more thoroughly through history, a lot like these shows. I mean, I always point to Next Generation. I was like an OG Star Trek when I was growing up, because I had like video cassettes of the old track. And when Next Gen started, I thought it was crap. I thought it was awful. And it wasn't until like season 3 or even 4 when I started tuning in again, and it was like really fucking good. So a lot of this stuff, you know, the getting to know everybody and the getting to know the world, sometimes it's really rough. So, but just now that we were done with or not done, but we were at least on the road of learning who these characters are, because obviously, I mean, I say obviously, but like Astrid has real issues with you know, wanting to live up to her father's expectations. Her father's like this badass who's led their village, you know, and protected everybody and kind of maintained status quo, but he doesn't have a son. So he's got this one daughter, you know, and she, you know, she's kind of eager to prove herself to her father and to the village that she's good for leadership in the future. But through, you know, and so is Nandor as well. You know, he kind of had these grand illusions at the beginning, and he's still kind of an idiot, but at least there's the promise for more, the promise of manhood, you know, of growing out of your awkwardness and into you know, a proper warrior. I mean, there's the promise of all these things. And Norah, she's very self-absorbed at the beginning of it, and she's kind of broken down because, as Astrid says, you know, nothing you've brought up works. You know, you've just led us down one empty road down to another, you know, so like we're not doing things your way anymore. She starts to take leadership, but it also starts to kind of dawn on Norah that, you know, maybe there's other ways of doing things. But she also gets her a little bit of redemption because her ideas of like science do kind of pay off. But this scene was really important. Yeah, with the potato. Yeah, good job. But like this was real important to me too, as far as like the culture stuff that we're dealing with the, you know, the women can beat the shit out of men and all this stuff that we're seeing in movies. And so I was like, when we were separating these girls, and I'm like, even these two guys, as bumbling as they are, you know, it's kind of weak as a Viking warrior as these guys might be, they're still way more of a match than a couple teenage girls. So I was really trying to figure out ways that they can get around it. For one thing, Fossegrim really saves their ass because Norah managed to get him loose, and he trips the last dude up. But this scenario, she doesn't beat him. She takes advantage of the situation. She uses her brains. You know, she takes out his footing, and then the tree takes him out. The log that they were going to burn the Fossegrim on. So it's little things like that you know, we kind of injected in there to make it a little more believable, at least in these scenarios where you got teenage girls going up against Vikings, you know. And in the same way with this, Nandor is showing great courage, you know, to stand up to these guys, even though he's far outmatched. But he thinks creatively, you know, he runs, you know, he figures out other ways to do things. But even at the very end, he's about to get his ass handed to him. And, you know, the moment where the Fossegrim song kind of puts everybody to sleep, you know, and he's still kind of an idiot. So he's thinking he did it, you know, he's like, yeah, you know, he's like, I'm a victory. I did it. And, you know, but I can't even remember. It's been so long since I worked on this. But like even toward the end in this battle sequence where like all hell's breaking loose.
I like that you brought the troll back, so the troll has some purpose in the story.
Yeah. I mean, that was fun because I mean he's definitely like the heavy as far as like the real danger goes, because it's like, you know, he's not on anyone's side. I mean, necessarily, but it definitely raises the stakes. I just wanted to draw this troll again, man. I wanted to draw like dragons and trolls and monsters and all kinds of stuff, but it's amazing what you can and can't accomplish in 22 pages, where you're like, okay, I need so much story development, so much character development, and so much action. And then you find yourself in a set where it's like, okay, I got 2 pages for action. You know what I mean? So it's like, okay, well, you know, how do you satisfy that itch? You know, you got to build it into the story so that the conflict is moving the story along. And by the time that we really kind of got an idea of where the story was going and where we had to go, you know, it's like, okay, well, let's just go balls out of the last issue. So,
it's claimed.
Yeah.
Jay Ryan got it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, B&H, send me $40. Nah, I got you.
All right, now that that's happened, you can get your copy of Norah Saga if you buy the copy with the Bass Reeves. Yeah.
I mean, I think the form factor of all 6 is nice. I mean, it's a big, thick book. The problem is people are buying single issues, and now either you got the book or you can't finish the story. It's what it boils down to.
Like I said, like I mean, I would be all for doing more, because I think that the next volume, at least as far as we were discussing and coming up with ideas for, and even like building in questions about, like when these Praetorian Guard kind of characters go to talk to the Fossagrim, wherever that's at. It's just like 1 page.
Yeah, the Valkyries.
Or 2 pages. Yeah, the Valkyries. So this kind of sets up a larger world, that's larger kind of things that are going on, which do play into the next arc. And also these agent guys, it's like, okay, they're not straight FBI. They have like knowledge of Loki and things that are beyond kind of normal FBI guys. So there's definitely set up, and of course having Mom show up at the end. I mean, there's definitely set up, and this is what's his face?
Demons.
Ben the Slayer.
Okay.
Yes.
But
so Ben the Slayer becomes Demon Slayer, huh?
Yeah, but you know, it's hard to say anything without any kind of spoilers, just in case we do. But like, all of this stuff does pay off in the sense that I guess I can reveal that it is not a straight time travel book. You know, it is fantasy, so you can kind of go anywhere with it. And like, I didn't want any chains on me. I'm like, and by the way, this this sword is it's not
on the cover.
It's very different. I mean, because every one of those swords looks like shit. You know, there's not a lot of great visuals of the sword, but it is kind of a transition from that era to the more British stuff. So it's like right on the cusp of the old Viking time and like the newer era. So I took some liberties there for sure.
Well, the book tells us it's from the 9th century, so that's a little past Viking time.
It should be like 9th. What century is it? I just looked it up to kind of get back into it. 9th to 11th century. So I guess it's closer to the end of that.
Okay.
And there was 170 of them, apparently. I guess we got that wrong too.
Well, you say 150, so that's close.
Oh, okay, close. You know, it's a comic book. You know, we're trying to like. I'm not particularly interested in being precise. Like, I'm not doing a history lesson. Like, I'm trying to create, you know, fun and at least move you along through the story without bogging you down with a bunch of historical details. That does not interest me at all. You know, more of the character conflict. That's what really gets me going. You know.
Wait, there weren't trolls in the 9th century?
As far as I know, I don't know. But who knows? There might have been giants, apparently.
Oh, yeah. Apparently still in Afghanistan.
Maybe.
Yeah, right.
It was just a Bigfoot.
So, yeah. I mean, I think that, I don't know. It was, I really enjoyed it, especially like the excitement of trying to wrap up all these things. I enjoyed the challenge of it after hearing you guys' review because, like I said, there's nobody really reviewing anything, and somebody bought it at Walmart. I mean, I've seen a few reviews of like the first couple, but then it just dies off. And like I haven't seen any reviews of the whole story. So I was really excited to kind of get some real feedback on it. And I think it lines up pretty much with what I expected, honestly.
Yeah.
I'm kind of stuck on this question of who the demographic is, especially since it was like such a big seller at Walmart. Like you could hypothesize if you wanted to extrapolate out. Like if you said, okay, let's pretend that it was mostly boys buying this book. What things would capture boys about it that would get them
Having
to
a 14-year-old daughter.
Yeah, well, so that's the point. Like,
well, yeah. Well, Mitch used to describe this as a book for fathers.
Yeah, it's like to give to your kid because you're into Viking mythology.
Yeah, and like I mean, I guess I can see that. I mostly was interested in doing some non-weak action adventure for girls. Like I don't know a lot of like girl stories, but I imagine they're not that cool, at least from. But then again, that's a guy's perspective. Maybe I don't understand that idea. I've never read any YA stuff, so I don't know.
I feel like it was, it was like
Fowler
YA.
says it's almost YA, but not quite.
Nah, I feel like it is more or less, aside from the last 2 chapters, which are more comic booky.
Yeah, well, that's coming from mostly like me and Mitch and even Scott Amendolara here, being comic book guys. So you could tell our focus is a lot different than just making a girl, because like there's a lot of like discussion about how girls view things as opposed to boys, where girls see things like they want to, what is it now? They see themselves as this character.
Yeah, I mean, Nora's kind of just a common girl, so any girl can picture herself as Norah would be the thing.
And then boys, they want to be the character, like they aspire to be James Bond or
trying to be Ben the Slayer.
Yeah, so that's the problem. No one wants to be Nandor when he's stumbling in a pig pen.
Right, and that was a huge thing for me when I heard you guys' review. I was like, oh shit, yeah, we need to like have something for him to do. So we did like pick up the pace a little bit for Nandor, but it was like such limited space left, and it's like, well, you don't want him to just be an outright hero at first. You kind of want to build up to that. So at least we create the promise that he's not a complete loser, that he has potential.
Yeah, I mean, it's almost implied when you first meet him. It's not that he's just clumsy, that he was like actually running away and he's a coward. So I mean, it's at least you see, he's not a coward, he's just foolish. But
is that the kind of setup for when they go back, that Astra and Nandor are going to be more realized, or like further along?
Yeah, we'd love to have them more realized, but trying to think of how I could tease like the I'll say this, but the idea that we were going to go with the next season is that it picks up in the modern times, but Astrid is there, Nandor's there. All these characters are in the modern times as modern characters, so it's a little tease of like what is happening here, So it gets a little
that's very Twilight Zone-y.
Well, I mean, you have implied at least that Loki wanted something to happen, and he's trying to like move maybe into the modern world. That's kind of implied. Yeah,
and I think I don't know if they say. Let me read this real quick. There's like in the.
I mean, you also have a crow on the last page underneath the mom, so he's like, "Oh, Loki is."
It's a little clue.
Watching,
Yeah, it's a little clue that he's involved somehow in this scenario, and also the mage telling Norah to keep her focus on what she wants. But there's a I don't know if we layered in enough clues as to what ultimately this realm is, but it's obviously in America, in Canada. It's obviously largely focused around this lake. So it's like, what is this? And if you kind of like go into the lore a little bit about like Eric the Red, I think it was Eric the Red that was cast out of wherever the Vikings are,
Newfoundland.
I mean,
Newfoundland.
It's kind of
he
got.
found Newfoundland after he was cast out.
It's
Well,
kind
yeah.
of.
Go ahead.
I said it was kind of has the feeling of American Gods, where like immigrants brought their gods with them, and the gods changed when they come to this new land.
I've never seen that. Is that a show?
It's a book.
That's
by
Neil
Neil Gaiman, and they made a show out of it.
Oh, far out. No, I've never read that. Okay.
You know.
Yeah, kind of like that in a way. Yeah, it's kind of hard to like say. You know, like I know where this is going, so it's kind of hard to like not say some of this stuff without spoiling anything. So,
well, we can move on to your other projects.
Oh, for sure.
I just think it's interesting though, like everything we're talking about with this, like there's no mention of the climax, right? Like you can see how much of it is male centric in terms of what's offered in the story. We're talking about the world, we're talking about the magic, we're talking about the mystery of like the characters coming in. Nobody's talking about that the mother came back and what that means for her relationship and are they going to bond and all this other stuff. Like I don't know, like just having a female protagonist, it feels like she's a placeholder, and really a lot of this stuff is built around the male demographic aesthetics. I think if a boy picks this up and he flips through it, he's like, oh cool, Vikings and trolls and swords, oh, and there's a girl in the middle. So yeah,
and I'm not really I remember Patrick's initial idea was more like a comedy, I think, and you know, once the deal was struck with Walmart, which required like they wanted more books. They didn't just want one book, like what was it, Red Rooster. They were like, well, if we're gonna, you know, have you guys in our store, we want like more, you know, more options for our buyers. So that kind of started the scramble for like, well, what do we have developed, you know? And there were all these stories were being developed by Mitch and Patrick for years, you know, just kind of shooting the breeze, figuring out what's cool, what can we do, you know, just story generating from like way back.
I think the shame is like you had what was it, the Futurist, but I think that was a little too history focused. I think the Saints would have been a sweet spot, but then you lost the deal just when you had that idea coming out. I think boys would have really liked the Saints. But
have you read that?
Yeah, I think we reviewed it even.
Yeah, we reviewed it.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, and that I'm curious how that's. I mean, the audience isn't there for Allegiance right now, even though that it's a real shame because the artist on the Saints. I mean, for one thing, you got Mike Barron in there, who's a hell of a writer and co-creator of Nexus, by the way, in case anybody didn't know. And he's the artist, Christian Rosado, is one of the best new talents I think I've seen in years. So
there it is.
Yeah. Look at the art in that. It's just phenomenal, man.
I mean, it is pretty unique. You don't see art, at least in mainstream. I mean, that's more of an indie style.
Yeah, it reminds me kind of a Lee Weeks mixed with like J.P. Leon, maybe, or very like I can imagine this at Vertigo pretty easy. This kind of thing, maybe not guns and you know all that kind of thing, but a mature audience kind of feel to it. So I don't know. It's I don't know. It'll be real interesting to see where all this goes. I mean, I think they produce a solid product, or at least they're really putting in effort to make something more substantial for the comic book buying audience. You know, whereas there's a whole lot of nothing going on right now. So, I applaud the effort, and I think given time, they'll make a real hit. But I mean, we also in contention with the with where the current state of everything is at. So
Yeah, I think Jay Ryan is correct. There are some faces that you like, that's a photo reference, but
for sure, I guarantee
everyone does that pretty much.
Yeah.
Although I say it's hard to tell when you do it because you have this kind of exaggerated style. So I don't think I could ever tell if you photo reference something.
I actually I have a standing order that if anybody can spot my reference, I'll give them the original piece of art. And
Peter
nobody,
Warburton, the Tick.
huh?
Peter Warburton, the Tick.
Yeah, but
Nah.
hold on, let me see if I can find it. One person, Billy Baxco, actually spotted this chick, which I did. I saw an ad with this chick just going through Facebook or Twitter or something. I don't know what it was, but I was like, cool. And I did a little sketch of her, and he immediately was like, hey, I like that. I saw that chick or whatever. And I'm like, oh shit, nobody's ever done that. He didn't know my thing about, if you can spot my reference, I'll do a piece for you. So, so I'm sending that to him this week, actually. Nice. But yeah, I use photo reference all the time, but it's mostly just as an idea, a basis, for something. Not really like being exact. I'm trying to find this other piece for you guys. I can't seem to find it. Anyway,
yeah,
sorry.
Billy will color that up well.
yeah. He's here's no. Yeah, Billy's growing into his into himself. It's gonna be interesting to see where some of these young guys go. I think it's just important to create some kind of healthy industry so that guys like Billy can flourish and learn and grow. Anyway, trying to find. But anyway, yeah. About me.
So what's this character?
This is Shank. I was trying to find my first page for it, man. I got art everywhere. I can't seem to find anything. Yeah, is this it? But yeah, this is something I've been working on for a while. Because with all this, with the Norah saga, and it not being for this audience per se, it's for young girls or Walmart audience or something like that. I'm like, I really want to do something for me and for this audience, for people that grew up in comics from, anywhere from the 80s to 90s to, I don't know if I was reading any comics in the 2000s, but I don't even remember. I like some of Garth Ennis's Punisher stuff. But man, I cannot find this piece.
Yeah, this guy's a little Venomy, a little Wolverine.
Yeah, that was what I was into, is Wolverine and just street level guys and just cool. A big inspiration too was Mr. Monster from Michael T. Gilbert, and especially Simon Beasley drawing him, and at first I was visually I was just what do I want to do, and so I just started sketching, and I'm like, what about a guy with a big knife out of his head, because there's a whole thing with guys with things coming out of their head. Savage Dragon's got his fin coming out of his head. You got Ultraman with his little knife thing that comes out of his head, and you just got a long history of these kinds of things. I just thought it'd be fun.
I was just going to say this. It's a little bit of Rhino in there as well.
Rhino.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's just, something visually fun that people can latch onto, and it was just fun for me to draw, and I wasn't really thinking of anything beyond that. And it really feels like I've hit something that is resonating with people on some like visceral level, which is fascinating to me.
Yeah, you have like
that painted
100,
piece is great.
100, 200 people watching you draw every morning. So,
Oh, is it
seems
that
like-
many?
well, it's 100 something, I think. You know.
Oh, here it is. Here's the first page, actually. So this story, like at first, you know, I've written some stuff, but it's all very plot based. You know, it's all just like guy does this, guy encounters this, guy does this. So when it comes to a point where like I, you know, doing my own book and creating motivations for all these guys and why they're doing certain things, I started thinking about the themes of things and like, what is it that you know, what is it in me that like, you know, what do I have to say? Do I have anything to say? You know, I don't know. Like I'm not very opinionated about stuff. I don't really give a shit about half the stuff that people like complain about out there. I'm like, I don't care. You know, so what do I care about? And I started thinking about my relationship with change, you know, like when I was young, I hated tradition, you know, Christmas tradition, putting up fucking lights and trees and all these things, and Easter Sunday and just all these things that are just in my way, you know. I hated it. And I wanted change. Like I didn't want to have to do the same thing over and over and over. The repetition really bugged me. And but now as a much older individual, I think about all that I've lost. You know, I've most of my family is gone now, you know, dead, moved away. You know, I think about those gatherings at Christmas, you know, I think about all the things that we've lost. So and that kind of thing is really important to me. So I'm like, well, I wonder if I can imbue that into a comic somehow without being like preachy about it. So in essence, that's just the guy whose name is Hank, and they call him Shank for something that happened in his past, which you could probably guess with a name like Shank. But he gets involved in this what I'm calling like the catalyst event for like the whole, like I have a lot of different stories involved in this, but this is kind of like the beginning of it. And he's stuck in this go nowhere town, Marfa, Texas, out in the middle of, you know, nowhere in the desert. And all he wants to do is get out. You know, he's a young man. He wants to just explore the world and get out of this town that seems to be, and that's a real place, Marfa, Texas, where Giant was shot. Giant with
James Dean.
James Dean, thank you. Yeah, James Dean. So they have monuments to that. They're like holding on to their past even today. And like it's a very artist-driven community there. So like he's living with his uncle who's like an artist who makes art out of like trash and stuff, like metal, you know, and making sculptures out of like old metal parts and stuff. And all these new artists kind of move in. So his world is changing. Like everybody around him feels like they're just trying to hold on to a little piece of what was good. And so to them, everything is changing around them, but to him, it's like stagnating. So when the moment of change happens, it's like it's physical, it's mental, it's environmental, everything changes. So like at the beginning of the book, it's sort of like the towards the end of the or at least the beginning of the third act, during the kind of towards the finale at least, where it's finally all coming together, where he realizes everything that is gone, you know. And so there is a bit of like actual human motivations and things in this story, but ultimately it's just going to be a kick-ass romp of monsters and action and stuff like that. So I wanted to have a really good balance of both, where I get bored as shit reading comics. So I want it to be action. I want things to change on every page. I want shit to happen. But I do want some of that good character meat that gives you purpose, and things change as you go and you wonder how this character is going to develop. So hopefully that's where we're going with it.
So
It
a
sounds
little
like
bit of comic book mixed with novelization. So you got some overarching character development and whatnot.
Yeah. Well, I mean, what shouldn't you? I mean, some of the comics. I mean, I don't know. I read a lot of novels, and I watch a lot of movies. Comics. I haven't read a whole lot that really get me. Very few. I thought Year One was like fucking fantastic. I thought Watchmen was overrated. So, like my comic, I don't know. My comic history is pretty varied. But I also like manga and stuff and how they love to break their character down to almost nothing. They hit rock bottom before they can pick themselves back up and carry on with the fight, having learned and, having evolved. Classic hero's journey kind of stuff. But what's funny is I'm always trying to break that mold because I'm like, so bored with all this, man. I want to do something new. But every time I start doing something new, it falls right back into the kind of the same rhythms. So I'm like, maybe I just need to follow those rhythms that are inherent within us, as people that have absorbed all this story over the years, but just make it compelling and give it, give you a reason to want to know more. So that's a lot of this kinds of stuff, and everything I've learned from Norah's Saga and from the reviews that you guys have done has encouraged me to kind of to go in this direction that I'm going, where I want to do something for men, for young boys, for comic fans. And I want it to be action and cool and like awesome imagery on every page, but I'm not going to sacrifice character development, because I think I really feel like we're almost in this new era of comics, or we're about to blow up. Excuse me. And we just got to hold off, we just got to like hang on, because like something's going to burst wide open. I'm not saying that's this, but I want to kind of at least get us in a good direction, where, I don't know. It's like an image book, the things that we kind of grew up like loving, but then like look back on and go, man, there's a lot of mistakes made back then, and there's not a lot of character development. There's nothing to really hang on to except for how cool the art is. But like, if you were to imbue that with like actual meaning, like the way that some of our great writers do, like in comics, but they're more focused on just the character stuff. So it ends up being like you're watching a movie or an HBO show, which again bores the shit out of me. It's like, no, or there's some kind of budget involved where you're reading, like I mentioned Garth Ennis's Punisher, which I really like. I love his Barracuda storyline with the big black dude. That guy, that fucking shit was awesome. It was so balls to the wall, but it's not action oriented, so it's still like has a tendency to kind of bore me. It's like, how can we have Stephen Platt with an actual story that you can care about? So that's at least the goal. With a guy with a big knife coming out of his head.
I feel like the theme of change is it's a trust issue, isn't it? The desire to want things to constantly be unsettled, ever morphing, and it's because you don't want to like settle into something and make it familiar, kind of ingrain yourself to it, make yourself open to it and vulnerable. If it's constantly shifting and moving, then you never have to commit to it. And I think when you get older and you long for those things, that's because you're just less vulnerable. You're like, no, I've had my ass kicked a few times emotionally. I can handle commitment and latching on to a few things now, and I like that security. So
Yeah,
it feels like trust is probably the central
that's a very
theme
good
to
insight.
explore.
Yeah, I was very like a gypsy growing up. I moved all over the country, and at some point I realized, I have no roots. Most of my roots are in scattered over the whole country. Through working on comics and getting to know, people outside through the internet. You guys. So it's like, man, I need to. I'm kind of tired of the wanderer is gone out of me. Now I'm kind of wanting to just stay put and get to know the land that I'm on, and the people around me and things like that. So I think that just comes with time, and like you say, um, understanding or would you say trust?
Yeah. Well, I almost feel like a good analogy is like Batman. He loses his parents. Not to be too simplistic, but so
Yep,
he doesn't.
parents are simplistic. They're well read.
But like, so he
Yeah,
loses
your
his
parents are dead. Big deal.
he loses his parents, and so like for him, the idea of family is like, oh, get it away from me. I want to be a loner. But then suddenly, like he's responsible for a young ward, and he's put into this fatherly role. And he has to embrace that when he's been running from it for so long. He has to trust, that he can hold that position and be that for somebody, even though that was taken away from him and that relationship was betrayed because it was stolen from him at a young age. That's a scar that'll never heal, and he has to be able to provide the healing for somebody else for a similar scar. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's like a sacrifice at that point.
Yeah, he has to let go a part of himself that he held on to so selfishly, for the sake of another person not to experience similar things. 7 says, so how did Shank get the metal embedded in his head? Oil drilling accident?
Not that they're I'll just go ahead and say some of it. Some of this is not really spoilers, but there's a guy who's a rich guy. I have a lot of classism, things like that going on in the book, things that we're dealing with now, but not to be preachy. It's more just the setting and stuff. But there's a rich guy kind of using the Hadron Collider. Like, for instance, I was really interested in the Mandela effect and CERN, and using that. And one of their stated goals was to create a bridge between this reality and the next one, an alternate reality, or the next one over. And then the whole Mandela effect started. And I'm not saying any of this is true, but it makes for great story fodder. Where, what if they were successful and this is why so many of even our friends, that people that we thought we knew, are just different now. They look at things differently. There's this new way of doing things. There's all this, I don't know, everything is fucked up now, man. Everything is so weird, and it really makes me think that they were successful in their goal of like merging one reality with another. And it's like, to them, we're the weird ones. We're not acting normal. But to us, they're acting abnormal. Things aren't, this doesn't make any sense, a lot of what's going on. So if you take that as a story concept where they did manage to bleed two realities together. And so I have this intense energy that comes from this other realm. And there's a whole story behind that, a whole secret that I don't want to reveal just yet. But there is this intense energy, this transformative energy that comes from this other place. And it has a way of mutating flesh, all matter. So Shank is known as Shank because he's got a shank. He's got a knife. And when he gets mutated by the energy, it forms, into this new, it transforms him into this new shape, this new form. And then the knife he has just comes out of his head. And it's And for people, I see. I don't want to spoil anything, but he has something very particular to him that allows him to use the abilities of the mutation, whereas most people just become monsters. So, and it's not just him. There's actually a whole group that also have this ability. So they're kind of end up being my mutants, like an X-Men mutant. But
Shank,
it starts with Shank.
Shank could be the knives in his heart that he's felt
Yeah.
from betrayal from all the people he's known in his life. He has to pull the shanks out of his heart
It's
gradually.
manifested by a big ass shank through his head.
Exactly. It's torn his psyche, being betrayed so often.
So, I mean, these are things that we can all understand as mature adults, you know, the things that, you know, maybe we don't focus on, but we know about, you know, we've experienced these kinds of things. So I definitely wanted to have a little bit that was beyond just the surface level for myself, to keep myself entertained. Because, like, you know, there's only so much action you can do without really having a reason for it. You know, you start kind of like, why are they doing these things? So,
yeah, that was Image to a T, right? Like, why are they doing anything? Who cares? They
right.
look cool doing it.
Yeah, and I still love that stuff. And I'm like, man, you know, if we're gonna usher in like a new era of comics, you know, as I don't know what you guys think of this. I'm not really sure about myself, but this whole Iron Age movement that's going on, which is interesting. And I'm not really sure what it's about, but at least it's an idea that we're entering a new era of comic books. And I like to think that I always said that at one point I was like, I'm going to stick with comics until the next wave hits. And I didn't know what form that would take. And it's become kind of clear to me that there is a new wave, but it's not the cynical cash grab of Image Comics from back in the day. You know, we don't have the speculator market. I think it's much more about what I call kind of farm to table comics. It's about getting back into touch with the readership, the people that actually want to read this stuff. It's about kind of taking the things that we all loved, but actually giving them spirit, you know, giving them meaning, so that we can have the best of both worlds, you know, and do something fucking cool, but also scratch that itch of deeper meaning that we kind of yearn for, even if we don't even know it, you know, just something to latch onto. But
yeah,
you know,
I mean, I think they were more heartfelt in the beginning, and they got into adventurism. Then they hit the collector's market, which I think what Image represents. You don't think of those things as anything other than toys on a shelf, but yeah, getting to something a little bit more substantive, getting them to resonate in a personal way. I do think that's the next phase for comics, because that's the only way to maintain relevancy. Nobody gives a shit about collecting figures anymore. They've got enough, and that market is saturated. They produce 1 million of them, but they want characters that they can personally identify with.
Well, and I see people, like, there's a lot of interest in it. I have not read it, but I did this. I don't even know if I have it here, but I did this piece on a whim, and I know that Irene Strakowski, she's real into what's it called? This guy's name is Guts.
It's Berserk.
Yeah, and the fans of that are like rabid, and you know, it seems like a dark ass story, but there's obviously great meaning behind a lot of the stuff that has really hooked people in you know, deeply, and so there's something working there that it's like, man, we need that, because like if we make a toy of this guy and it's sitting on his shelf, it's not only just a cool toy, but there's so much involved. When you look at him, you're like, you think about all that character has gone through, and you resonate with him on a whole other level than just him looking cool. You know, so that's kind of where I would like to go more with my character, where yeah, if you just want to read it and have a cool action romp, you're going to get that. But there's definitely like deeper underlying themes for the people that care about that. So that if they do make a toy of Shank, it's not just going to sit lifeless on your shelf. It will draw deeper meaning. You know, when you look at them, you'll be like, ah, yeah, I remember that journey. You know.
Well, and that's the note that like comics misses that manga has been hitting, and I think
Yeah.
that's what like the millennials are picking up on. Is like it's the introspection and the philosophy and like all of those more deeper things that you get out of manga. It feels more of a rich experience. Even like just the rule of like having finite stories, like knowing that this is going to, you know, transcend a certain period, and it's not just going to extend indefinitely as like some cheap, you know, cash grab. All
Why
of
are you
that.
making fun of Cecil?
Yeah, no pun intended.
Yeah.
I'm not definitely not interested in doing like a cash grab because like I'm, and it's so frustrating because you see some of these guys like a Sean Gordon Murphy who I believe has the chops to do something special, but he's not. I don't know. There's a limit there, or maybe he's not as smart as I'm giving him credit for. But like he's still relying on the mechanism that doesn't work anymore, you know. And it's like no. It's about fully connecting with the audience, you know, with the base that actually wants to read this stuff. And it's like, why the fuck am I doing this if nobody's going to actually read it and give a damn? And if it's not working, then I need to hear that and I need to reorganize and try again. And this making comics in a void like the way you do in the mainstream, it just doesn't work. It's obviously it doesn't work because it's failing miserably. Never mind all the weird cultist leftist bullshit that's going on.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's just they're making bad comics that do not resonate with you on a deeper level.
Well, you know, it's weird. Like the cultist leftist stuff, I feel like, you know, they were on the path of where comics probably would have gone naturally, but they deviated to like a major detour. They wanted to personalize these things into people's experiences, but they're like, no, we're only going to do that for this select group.
Yeah, it's true.
You know, rather than like to a more broadly, you know, more profound kind of general human experience.
Yeah,
they missed the boat on that. So,
I mean, did they miss the boat, or did they even understand that they should have got in that boat? I mean,
well, it's their like, you know, their fashionable, you know, whatever they were elitist, you know, attitudes of like, no, this is where this emotional experience needs to go, and this is where the trend is. So they wanted to have that outlet. They wanted to make it personal, but they did it in their very superficial mod kind of, you know,
superficial,
trendy way.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. And I feel like that's so much. You know, I often cite Frank Miller because, like, I don't believe that anything he was doing was superficial. I believe that everything he was doing was coming from some deep desire to do things that he enjoyed, you know, or that had meaning to him, and they end up resonating with other people, you know. I mean, I'm speculating, of course, but just it's not just. I read so many stories and I watch so many shows. I don't do it anymore because I'm just so bored. I watch a show and I'm like, oh, she did it. You know, like a murder mystery. I'm like, oh, she did it. He did it. You know, like you could tell it's telegraphed a mile away because it's following these same typical fucking formulas that we've seen 1,000 times or more. And it's just so boring. Yeah. And like, I feel like they're just making product to make product, you know? And it's like, no, I want to do something that I enjoy doing and that actually has some kind of meaning for me, and maybe that will resonate with others, you know, that have the same experience.
Yeah, it's formulaic escapism rather than commenting on society or trying to connect with humanity, or, you know, things that are more significant.
And I'm not even sure that that's my goal, or it definitely wasn't. Like, I just wanted to do something cool, but then once you start thinking about, well, why is this character doing this? and then that leads you down one thing, and then you're like, well, what about this? And then that kind of leads you down another thing, and then suddenly you have a lot more going on, and your character is like living at that point, and he kind of makes his own choices at that point, and you're just trying to hang on as a creator. So when you really explore your character fully, when you really understand his reasoning for doing this or that, or end up in, and what would he do in these situations. I heard the story about, was it Robert E. Howard, like writing Conan, right? And he talks about how he really felt Conan was standing over him with an axe, ready to kill him if he didn't tell his story. And like, I can see that, I can see that once you like hit this level where a character becomes real, they take on their own life. And so I take a great responsibility in that, not only for the character and its potential life, but for anyone that bothers to read it. I hate to waste people's time. I hate when people waste my fucking time. So like, I don't want to waste anybody else's time.
Cool as that story Reni's into, Berserk.
Yeah.
People want a transcendent experience where, they also get like some visceral appeal. It kicks ass. It looks great, but it has something to say. It's not just there to like provide some cheap stimulation and then move on. So
yeah, what's the old saying? You don't want to be middle of the road. You either want to be horrible or really great, because like either way elicits an emotional reaction. Just okay just upsets people, and makes them like, it was all right. It's like, it's boring. You want to kind of like go, I don't know. Just, I want to gross someone out, make them mad, make them happy, just elicit some kind of emotional response in the reader.
Terry Gilliam, he's either like brilliant or he's frustratingly bizarre, and so, but he always like aims for the stars. Like he goes for it every single time. So
I think you got to, man, especially right now. We're in a transition period, I believe, all of humanity, not just comic books, but we're in a transition period where we need to like figure out how we want to proceed into the next evolution, and my whole focus is comics, as small and as lame as that might be. I believe this is a great American art form that's suffering, and other countries are doing it far better than us. And it's like, I believe that Western storytelling is some of the best on earth. And some of the great derivative works from other countries are still largely influenced by Western themes and ideas, even though they're told from their perspective. So there's no reason why we can't resonate the same way that all those are. We just have to try, or I guess, I don't know.
You should read this comment well read.
Seven says the greatest sin in show business is to be boring.
Yeah.
Call me the greatest
well
sinner.
read.
I'm ready to serve my penance. Yeah.
Assume the position.
That's right. Ready for my flogging. Well,
so anyway, I mean, that's it. That's that's it for this, at least. That's my hopes and dreams anyway. Move on to something at the very least visually stimulating. I'm actually going to paint this. I'm going to do it as raw and by hand as possible, so that we can eliminate as many steps to you, the reader. It's like I keep saying, the farm to table comics. Like, I want to draw this. I'm even going to take a photograph of it. I'm not doing a scan. I'm going to use my camera, which I do a lot these days, to photograph it. And then, you do have to assemble it in the computer, because it's just the most efficient way to do it these days. But then it goes to the printer, and then it's to you. So there's not levels of editorial and levels of too many hands in the cookie jars making you do this or that, which I've had for 24 years or however long I've been doing this, 27 years, I guess. There's always this, oh, I think we should go this way. And then you make a compromise because there's all these other people that want their say, and it's like, I don't know. I just feel like this need to kind of like, let me do it direct from my hands, my brain to you, and let you judge it and judge me based on that without having any of these external things that I can say, oh, well, that's because so-and-so wanted that. I didn't, whatever. Like I'll live and die by every choice I make on this. And I'm very looking forward to people reading it and ripping it apart, so that I can learn to make it better.
Nice. Well, we'll be here to oblige. Seven says Shank strikes me as a killer.
Yeah, I like
Maybe.
the arm lying on fire, the background, interesting.
Yeah, thanks.
How
Yeah,
did you conceive this background?
Oh, this
You
here?
were thinking sploosh?
Sploosh? I don't know.
Yeah.
No, it's just like
it suits it well though.
I wanted to start from like in a void, where you're not really sure what's happening just yet, and little by little things will manifest, and you can. So like it goes from on a very practical level. The first 5 pages are this fight scene where it's sort of like in manga where the character finally trusts himself and he grows into his full being. And so this is like right before that, where he's lamenting everything that he's lost, and then he gets to a point where he remembers something very specific, and then it cuts to the past, and you kind of see the beginnings of how he got there, and then you go on this journey from there. And then we catch back up. Very like film noir, kind of like where he's, what is it? Sunset Boulevard. It's kind of often what I cite, where he starts off with a dead guy in a pool, and you're like, how did he get here?
Yeah.
So it's
That's
fairly
cinema verite.
Yeah.
Yeah, you start in the action or in media res.
Yeah, and I didn't want to do that. Like, I didn't want to fall into any old cliches, but as I kept telling people or talking to people about it, I kept getting this sense that they really wanted to start with something that people could latch onto easily. They're like, you should really start with some action. You should really start with this. And I'm like, well, that's what I wanted to do with Norah. So maybe I just need to do that, and not worry about trying to be so different that it ends up alienating people, and do things that resonate as something familiar but different. Like even Shank and his whole design, there's familiarity there, but he's not quite superhero, he's not quite monster, he's not quite in a superhero costume. He looks like he's in a shirt with jogging pants or something and a tank top. It's there's a familiarity there, but it's different, and then hopefully it'll all make sense, and I don't know, it'll just become something that it feels right, and it's funny because like Phil Diaz went to a convention, and he's gotten to know Simon Beasley, which I think I get a kick out of. I'm a big Simon Beasley fan, and he started talking to him about Shank, and then he like walked off and came back, and he was like already drawing like a drawing of Shank. I think I got it here. Maybe I can pull it up. I don't know if anybody's seen that, but like it was such a shock to me because it's also coming after Matt Weldon did a drawing of Shank. It's resonating with him on some level. Who else? Ed McGuinness was really into it, and like there's something about it that even I don't really understand. That I don't know. Maybe I just tapped into something that it sounds really bigger than it is.
Something visceral.
Yeah, maybe it's latching onto some little part of our past, or something feels familiar, like I say, that is resonating with that kid in you, Where's my window?
Kid in you, and you got a
That's
picture
my-
you come up.
Is this it? No, it's Cabell.
There's a kid in you.
No.
There's a kid in you.
No,
A
not
young
there.
Kelsey.
I have a desktop camera somewhere. Where the fuck is it? No.
LA says, I wanted to do some fan art of Shank, but now I'm
There it is.
standing in the shadows of giants.
No, please do. I get such a kick out of this, but here's Simon Beasley with his British teeth flipping the bird, like having just drawn this piece. And he was like, I like this character, you know. He's like, send me a copy when it's done. I want to do something for it, or whatever. He's telling Phil that. Man, I'm in this like surreal zone where I'm just like, this doesn't feel real. This is like,
You should buy that art off of him and have that as an alternate cover.
Phil got it, and he's like an early birthday present. So Phil's
Nice.
he's a good soul, man. Do something like that. To be thinking about other people like that, it's rare. You see stuff like that, you know. I'm not very good about that.
Phil's a really good guy. Phil and
Yeah.
Brandon.
Yeah.
I live right by him.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Do you go to
Yeah,
their
super
arcade?
good dudes. What's up?
Do you
What?
go to their arcade?
Yeah, I've been to the Galloping Ghost many times. I walked
about
up
the
to
gym?
Simon Beasley at Fan Expo and I was like, Are you Simon Beasley? And he was like, Come back to the booth tomorrow. Please stop talking to me.
I wouldn't expect anything less from him. I hope he does that to me. Fuck off, man. I'm doing something else now.
Yeah. I just did that for 4 hours. Please leave me alone.
I had that. Mark Wade did that to me, where like I saw him at I think it was Mark Wade. Yeah, I believe it was right after Kingdom Come. He's the guy that wrote Kingdom Come, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I saw him at a con, like digging through a long box. And I was like, hey, Mark Wade. I was just wanting to say hi. I didn't want anything from him. And he's like, he just immediately, it was like, I do my signings between this time and this time at the booth, whatever. And I was like, okay, dude, later. You know? Never saw him again. And it turns out he's an actual dickhead, you know, that I didn't want to get to know anyway. So what up?
Yeah. No, Simon's cool. I talked to him the next day. But yeah.
Yeah, he's got his hours, you know. I operate between the times of 11 and 2 o'clock, and that's it.
Yeah.
Your character has a duality, like two-faced. He's got a dark and a light side. It's like the side that wants to trust and the side that refuses to.
And the
Yeah,
side
the
that
side that
refuses
just wants to shank you.
Yeah.
Side that won't open the pod bay doors.
Believe me, I want to do things with this knife, man. I want to have him headbutt a guy into 2 pieces, you know, like just I want to do a lot of like shit that makes Simon Beasley laugh, because I think that would be a great goal. If Simon Beasley's like, fucking A, man, this is great. Yeah, then success.
Yeah, you should talk to Phil about that.
Mm-hmm.
He's
Oh,
like
for sure.
a historian on the Lobo shed and just people getting ripped apart by bullets and stuff like that.
That's part of what I would like to do with it. You know, the Lobo paramilitary Christmas special is like one of my all-time favorite comic books, and it's like there's nothing really to it. It's just fun and like visceral, and you know, there's a knife fight between Lobo and Santa Claus. You know, it's just I don't know. So, you know, it's a comic book. Very fun.
Yeah, that would be sick.
Cool, guys. We went 2 hours and
Well, Red's saying, "Oh no, it's comics talk. Let's get out of here."
yeah, 2 hours and 20 minutes. Well, it's been a lot of fun, and thank you very much, Kelsey, for being on with us and being drunk. So that helps a lot.
Yes.
Yeah, thanks guys for doing this though. It really does mean a lot. I think we need more criticism, and creators need to accept criticism with grace and humility, and learn a thing or two from what people are saying, because everything you guys are saying good or bad, it's important to kind of take note and be like, okay, well, I did this for a reason, and maybe they just don't see it. I'm going to keep trying. Or yes, I do recognize that's a fault. Let me try to like move on with something better. I don't know. And we don't have a lot of this right now. So
You can't
very
end the
important.
stream now, Well Red. You got to raid.
Oh shit! Let me get naked. Let's do this.
Let's get more alcohol.
I was doing it.
I was going to say,
I'll go on my phone, drive to the liquor store.
I was going to say the ivory tower isn't that a bit of a remnant of like the old architecture of what comics and fandom used to be, the interaction between them? Isn't what we're doing breaking that down as much as possible, as thoroughly as possible?
I would hope so. I mean, one of the calls for me was I listened to Zach. You know, I was doing 2 books at a month. I was working at Archie, doing a very classic superhero book with the Mighty Crusaders. No politics, just classic old school fun. Nobody was buying it. Then I go to, on the flip side of that, I'm doing a creator-owned book at Image about a vampire that, or a young woman that's turned into a vampire and then kills her maker and then wanders into the ocean because she doesn't need air. So she lives under the ocean for who knows how long and emerges into the modern world. It's just kind of a different take on it. But neither was drawing an audience because nobody was fucking reading comics. You know, everybody was complaining about this or that. And I'm like, well, I'm right here. I'm doing all this stuff. You know, I'm trying to cater to like any side of fans because, like, you know, the writer of Dark Fate is
What's the name of the book?
Dark Fate.
I was personally a fan of the soggy vampire.
Yeah, it was different. It was like a whole different kind of thing. But like we did when all this started, I didn't know what the fuck was going on. And we're doing this book and Miles, the writer, you know, he's putting his things that he cares about. He cares about the ecology and all this other shit. And like, I just want to draw a sexy vampire babe. And he scored an interview on NPR with some lady, and she pulls us in. I'm thinking, yeah, man, we're going to get people to like check out this book. And the first thing she asked, she's like, okay, so Kelsey, what does a half naked woman have to do with saving the environment? And I was like, nothing, you know, like I just like drawing hot babes, you know, I didn't understand it. And of course, Miles stepped in, he knew what was going on, and he kind of like directed the conversation from there. But when we got off of it, I was like, what the fuck was that? And he's like, that was a gotcha question. She was trying to like trap us into, you know, into some sort of controversy. And I was like, what was that all? I had no idea. And then I started listening to, because our letterer was the guy that was working or was conspiring with B. Clay Moore to like, you know, hassle Zach at a convention to try to, you know, get his PTSD up and get him to do something stupid. And I called him up and I was like, what the fuck is this guy talking about? I don't know how I heard about Zach. I think I was over in the back room and you know, Tamara Bonvillain is in there and they're all complaining about Zach. So I started listening to him, and then I hear my letterer and him. I was like, oh my God, don't be hassling with fans on the internet. What the fuck are you doing? You know? So and then I just started listening to him. I'm like, well, he's right. He's right about so much stuff, especially how we treat the fans. You know, we're telling them they don't matter. They don't. And this is all long before we knew about the ESG thing and all that, where, you know, we don't really matter to them. They get their money from, you know, this fund or whatever. So anyway, that just sort of changed my whole thing, where it's like, man, I've been trying to win the favor of my peers for so long and I was just a fan. So I had no idea that we were losing connection with the fan base, with the people that actually read this book. And that's why none of my books were selling. The audience just wasn't there. They're being sorely mistreated. So that's my real mission in this, is to reconnect that or at least try to be here for the comic book fan, you know,
Oh,
and
it's
to make things
rediscovering.
for them.
Dude, Kelsey, you'd fuck Terry Gross up.
What do you mean?
It's an NPR host.
Oh, was that I wonder, was that her? I
I don't
wonder
think
if it
so.
was.
Unless
Oh,
she talked in a dulcet tone, like, Kelsey, but what do naked women mean about the ecology?
She talked a lot like Well Read. Yeah.
Yeah. That's
Oh,
who
well,
I modeled
maybe
my
it
voice
might have
after.
been Terry Gross then. Dude, I know you got her ass. You'd body her.
Yeah, I study her.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
this
So it
Terry
was just
Gross with NPR.
definitely a wake up call. So I don't think it was her. It was probably some nobody.
Yeah, yeah.
Mm.
Just college student.
Some well-read.
Just another well-read. Hello, everyone. We're going
This
to
is
review
gently read.
comics today.
Here is my ambiguously gay music.
Ambiguously. How dare you? It's overtly gay.
Overtly gay music.
Well, speaking of Zach, we need to review Mind Your Business because I definitely have things to say about that book.
Oh, really?
I haven't read it.
Oh yeah, I think I'm the only one that has read it. So
He sent me a whole stack of Knife Hand Blind Spot and not that book. So I need to get
yeah,
him to
I
send
can
me
imagine people had things to say about Knife and Blind Spot and not Mind Your Business. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, I have not read, like, when he was writing the script, you know, I was drawing it almost at the same time that he was writing it.
That makes sense.
Yeah, we were doing it really fast, and he had just very loose dialogue, enough for me to kind of, and then I could make up the rest. Well, you know, in this scenario, these characters would do this. You know, you see enough of these stories, you can kind of make out how to visualize it, and then he'll come in and put the dialogue in. So I have no idea what the actual dialogue was. So I'm very curious how he put that
You
together.
don't even know what the dialogue is? That's
Nope.
Interesting. Oh wow.
No, this was done straight up old school Marvel style. You
Okay.
know?
Yeah. Interesting.
So yeah, I look forward to seeing your review.
I think I'm the only one to have it, so I'll have to like take pictures of it to give the well read to get other reviewers on it.
Yeah,
but
that
I mean, art wise, I had a blast because I mean, a lot of people complain about the art, and they're, you know, I think somebody in Kiwi Farms was like, easiest money Kelsey's ever made, you know, and I'm like, well, yeah, but you know, we were trying something very specific to be like, to make comics at the speed of thought, basically, you know, like the way they used to do, just cranking it out, and it lives on its own merit, you know, but it should have come out a long, long time ago. So I don't know if he was busy or if he's been laboring over the script or whatnot. So
wasn't Mind Your Business bundled with something else? I don't remember.
Well, no, that was No, the Ballad of No,
right.
or whatever.
Yeah, that's right.
And yeah, and then this one I think was just on its own. So
yeah, that's strange. It took so long then.
Yeah, he's got a lot of irons in the fire, so I don't.
There you go. Darko loves your art on Zach's stupid stuff.
Yeah, I got one more cover to finish up, which I need to get with him soon, and I got to finish up our little trilogy of the Iron Sights books.
You need to finish that so I can buy the poster and put it next to the other two I have on my wall.
Yeah, that's that. That's where we're gonna wrap that up, and then that kind of ends my, at least for now, my my tenure with Zach, which has been for me a lot of fun. So I know he's a very divisive figure, but I thought he's pushed me in directions that I think helped me grow a lot, like what you guys' reviews of this stuff do. You know, you guys, you know, at least I take this stuff to heart and I learn from it. So I take away my experience with Zach with a lot of learning and understanding, at least about how the business side of it is, and being and reconnecting with the fan base. I don't know where else he's gone. He's you know, got a lot of other things he deals with. So I don't know about all that stuff.
Well, he works with the big guys now, Chuck Dixon and Sylvester Stallone.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess Chuck's one of my favorite writers because his stuff, at least the stuff I read, like the Punisher or the Green Arrow stuff that he did with Rodolfo DiMaggio, that stuff was like watching an action movie play out on paper.
Typing.
What are you typing?
Clickety clack.
Sorry.
Taking notes.
Yeah, I'm looking up famous Rocky lines.
I don't I don't know if what Zach is doing though is trying to appeal to a broader audience. Maybe he feels he constantly yearns for reaching out, to the comic readership, and that's what he was doing originally. And maybe he still feels like he's pursuing that mission.
I don't know. To me, it really feels like he's just enjoying him. I don't know. Enjoying himself might be pushing it, but he's making comics. And that's what he's always wanted to do. And good or bad, he's getting to do his thing. I mean, and he's enjoying that part of it, and not, I don't know that there's a lot more deeper meaning like there used to be. There was a whole mission involved in that, and there's a lot of pressure to do this or that. And it could rob you of your joy very, very easily. And I think he's kind of pulled away from all of that. And now it's just like, I'm just making comics. I'm just, take them or leave them. I'm enjoying myself, I guess. I mean, it's hard to read Zach and some of these guys. So I don't read into it too much. I'm like, he's making the comics he wants to make. So good for him, I think anybody that wants to do that should go do that. But, there's a lot of other stuff wrapped into the lore of Zach. Oh, hey, Bancroft, what's up, bud?
Yeah. Let me tell you something you already know. The world ain't all sunshine and rainbows. It's a mean and very nasty place. I don't care how tough you are. It'll bring you down to your knees permanently if you let it. You, me, or nobody. It's gonna hit as hard as life.
Adrian!
But it ain't about how hard you hit. It's about how hard you get hit and keep moving.
Not bad.
Yeah.
I really believed you were stupid. Good job.
Dude, that's 25 years of steroids and getting punched in the head right there.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's wisdom you can't get from a book.
Yeah, I don't know if Zach is just a stream of consciousness or he is conscious of the things he says, because he does take positions on things.
A little bit of both, probably.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's I don't listen to him quite as much as I used to. I'm still subscribed. I still see what he's talking about. Still talking about Max Visaggio and all these people, I guess. And I'm really yearning to kind of move on to where we're gonna go. It's like, yeah, we know all this stuff. Yeah, they fucking ruined everything. Let's pick up the pieces and move forward. So that's really my main goal, is to like let's start talking about the things that we love, and maybe getting back to some of that.
All of us want to move on from the comic industry, I think.
Yeah.
I think we're just done with it at this point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I could care less. I mean, it's funny because in one of my favorite things to post when somebody's like, well, they're mistreating whatever, Marvel's dying or whatever, and I love posting that little picture of Kirk going, let them die, like I don't care. I've let them go a long time ago. I'm not interested in another Spider-Man adventure. I'm just not. I'm not interested in the least in another Star Wars movie or another Star Trek. And it's not that they ruined it for me or any other reason other than they've milked it as far as they can milk it. And it's just repetitive at this point. And I'm waiting for that young upstart to come out with a new thing that ends up becoming the new Star Wars, the new thing that gets people excited. And that's not going to happen as long as we're going, ooh, a Critters remake. Oh man, I love that movie. Let's go see it with fucking, douchebag whoever, in Hollywood. I just don't care anymore. I'm just so done with all of it.
Yeah. Occasionally when you milk something too long, you're just looking for something else to come.
Yep. So, I mean, we'll see if all that. I mean, I think the whole goal is to like create an environment where, that individual who has the next great thing that moves us can come out freely and do that without the obstructions of politics or corporate greed or whatever, and that's going to be by just, fostering this audience, this fan base, and providing good works, and getting money coming into this industry where maybe that one individual who's like a mechanic right now, but he's got a great idea and he just doesn't think he can pull it off. But now he sees like an environment where that can happen. Oh my God.
This could be you.
That's the best trading card.
It is the best trade. Dude, this might be one of the best trading cards I've ever gotten. Honestly. When I saw that in the back, I was so happy.
Yeah, just having some fun. Yeah. We're sorely lacking that.
Totally.
I say that and I'm going to have another shot here real quick.
I got to zoom in on that.
Mm-hmm. My cheap vodka, my bottom shelf vodka.
Yeah. This drink of kings, dude. Gasoline water.
Right on.
There you go. Like a man. Good job.
Well, Red has only heard about being like a man, so.
I left that in my past.
Oh, man. All right. Well, how long are we going to stretch this shit on? We done?
Yeah, I think I got to get going.
Yeah, I guess we can wrap.
What's he saying? I
Comment.
completely agree with Kelsey. I like that part.
Okay, we'll just stop there.
Yeah, let's just end it there.
I don't like the big butt.
I like big butts, and I cannot lie. In order to grow this scene, we have to go where people already are, which is the mainstream.
Nah, fuck that.
We can't expect people to just stop what they're doing and find us. I think we just haven't figured out a way to offer a really enticing alternative. Honestly,
Yeah.
like that's my honest take.
Well,
It's like-
Bancroft is having success doing shorts and talking to a nude audience.
Yeah, but he's still, I mean, if I can be a little critical, it's still propagating the same negativity of we hate this, we don't agree with that, we don't, whatever. And I think the only way to move that forward is to show them the alternative by producing good work and not constantly complaining about what the other guy is doing wrong. We shouldn't give a shit at what they're doing. They can fuck it all up. I don't give a shit. Let's just make something new and so compelling and so undeniable that the audiences will come. If you build it, they will come.
Yeah. Bancroft is huge on TikTok.
Yeah. He's doing his little dance and stuff.
My little guilty confession. What hurts my heart is that honestly we've been at it for a while, and I wish we were further along. Because we've been doing this CG thing for quite a bit.
I hope.
Yeah, I mean, but like if you look at the grand scheme of things, we've only been doing this for 5 years. That's when Jawbreakers kind of broke the mold, and started this whole ball rolling of comics, really kind of starting off. So we're competing with literally like 100 years of making comics, and fan habit of going to a comic book store, and even that's relatively not that old, but it's got way more time than we got. And just like my analogy of the how the first 3 seasons of Star Trek sucked balls, it got really good So we just can't give up. We got to keep moving forward, you know, and that it'll just happen. I mean, and as far as I'm concerned, what I say, everybody's like afraid that I'm going to leave. I was like, I got nowhere to go.
Right.
I'm determined to, you know, I burned my ship when I hit the new land. You know, I'm not going back. Even though
Well,
I've done stuff with Dark Horse, that was for Mike Barron. You know, and Dark Horse was very good to me, and I appreciate that. And it gave me hope that there was still some sort of unification possible, that we can get back into the mainstream. But we're going to become the mainstream. You know, if we're going to get back into the mainstream, I want to dominate their ass. You know, like so, and that's just going to be by producing good work. You know, and we'll get there. And that's because the reason we're going to get there is because we don't have the benefit that Image had of the initial oomph where everybody's throwing a bunch of money at us. I mean, we did, I guess, because some of these campaigns were making millions of dollars, but you know, that's not really the same scenario, and that we're kind of forced to move this giant ball forward. What does he say? Closest to what Kelsey's talking about is Cyberfrog, but would Ethan be where he is without Soy Wars and Brie Larson? I don't know, maybe, but I believe the time has passed. I believe it's now, like I said before, I think it's time to stop talking about all the things we hate and that constant negativity and start moving the ball forward into the things that we want to see into the future.
Yeah.
You know, I'm a glass that's half full. You know, I'm not going to be complaining about my half empty glass.
I think your glass is empty, though.
I'm gonna fill it up with piss and vinegar. That's what.
or vodka.
And vodka.
Or vodka.
You got the chili vote, though.
Chili's behind you.
Yeah, I'm not saying not to do that because I believe that we are in a culture war. I believe we're in a transition of society, and we can't give up the front. We got to stay on those lines, fighting that good fight, because they will fucking run over us and take it all away if given the chance. So there is a side of me that believes that some part of that has got to be kept up, but there's definitely a good portion of us that need to move that ball on down the road.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
Brie
quitting is
Larson-
definitely not an option.
Brie Larson is in Fast 10. You can go watch her now.
Oh God.
Yeah,
Fast
we're the only-
10 of these fucking movies. I'm so done.
She's the
I didn't
first
watch-
person
20
they ever
years.
excommunicated from the family.
We're
We're good
family,
without
except for
Brie
that
Larson.
bitch.
Seen those gross ass feet?
I didn't even watch the first one, so whatever.
There you go. I love Bancroft. I think he's doing good works. I think he's what I like most about Bancroft is that he's cultivating his fan base and he's really good with his fans and he's entertaining. I like watching his shows. He spotlights a lot of great art that's being produced. So on one hand, he is talking about all the bullshit that is being leveled against us and popular media, but he's also spotlighting the great things that are being achieved in this field. So I think he's got a nice, healthy mix.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
definitely. I did see a thing from him that was like a YouTube, just like some picture of art that was the lucent chick falling into a black pit. And
Oh,
it was like, sometimes we need to fall harder than we've ever fallen before we realize how great we could be. You know, some bullshit like that.
Now throwing some Rocky into that.
I was like, okay, Bancroft. Yeah, but yeah.
Wow, that was kind of a burn on Bancroft right there.
No.
Is he smelling his own farts? What's he doing?
Sometimes when we fall our hardest, that's when we need to get back up.
It's good Australian there. What do you think?
Sometimes when you fall it into the outback. When the Roo kicked you in the head the wrong way last night.
You just gotta throw another shrimp on the body. No,
You're gonna be all right. What would Steve Irwin do?
Bancroft has a vision though for his project. I think that's what really sells it. So
Yeah.
he's got like a thing that he's scoped, and it's going to be this really big, large, epic story. He's dedicated a lot of himself to it.
I will say we were talking about making something different than what has come before, and I think you can at least say Lucent is that thus far.
I like the fact that he's trying to bring in the European sensibilities and at least looking at different form factors and, you know, trying to educate at least his audience on there's more to this than just the typical pamphlet comic, you know.
Yeah. His Bond Destinies. He says, maybe we fall because there's something down there we're meant to find.
My car keys. My sanity.
Yeah. Place to take
my
a nap.
balls. They've dropped pretty low, so maybe they're down there.
Apple talk.
That's what you're meant to find.
Oh, now you're gonna
Testicular
get
cancer.
canceled, Will-Red. That word was said.
What?
What?
Oh well, that's CG lore.
CG lore. Yeah.
Oh, Abo. Yeah, that's a slur, racial slur in Australia.
That's right. No, I mean definitely what you said. Like, yeah, you don't stop fighting. This is the only ground we have. Yeah, you fight for it tooth and nail, and we're the only ones breaking new ground. If anything's going to come out of this, it's going to come from us.
Right.
That's I think what these shitheads like Brooks and these mainstream people who fight with us online miss is that we're the only ones. And I don't mean to sound presumptuous saying we, like, Moonshine and I and Admiral Wackass were part of the fan base.
We're all
creators.
Involved. We're all involved.
Yeah, we're all doing our
Bancroft's
little.
a great example of someone like pushing forward a different story that's not a traditional comic book type of thing, but it's very engaging.
Right. We're the ones who are going to push things forward and break through. Those guys are just treading worn territory and hoping, doing the same thing over and over again is going to yield a different result. It's not. So
Seven's got an interesting comment about web comics. Next great wave will probably arise in the realm of weekly web comics. As McFarlane said, it's all about momentum. No TV show will ever fly if episodes were released yearly or even monthly. I agree with that. And there's no mechanism that allows for monthly comics, at least in this field or this particular place where we're at right now. And I'm a big proponent of web comics, actually. Yo, what's up, Dan Wallace? What's up? You love my art. You don't love me? What about me?
They all love you for your art.
Dan was a huge inspiration back in the day, like, because he was doing what I thought were painted comics and stuff, and it turns out he was doing like color pencil comics, which is even crazier. Just wild, man. Guy is like, he's amazing. What he can achieve. You don't even know what he's doing.
Yeah. This is why I love your style, where it's got that dynamic quality to it, where you bend literally like the anatomy of the thing based upon the action that's going on.
Tell me more.
Yeah, I mean,
I appreciate
the sword too. It flows.
Everybody was like, it's a bendy handle. Yeah, I probably pushed it a little too far, but
it's going with the kinetic of the entire image. It adds to the intensity of the moment.
But I like that. I like the fact that people are arguing about this, because that's what I was saying about, like, at least they're not like, yeah, it's okay. Like they're like, that sword doesn't belong on the pommel's too. I mean, one guy knows his swords really well, and he was like going over everything that's wrong with that sword. And I'm like, that's awesome, man. I like that. I like it. Argue about it. Change my mind.
Fight over me.
Yeah. Show me you love me with your face.
Yeah. Well, so have you started scripting, Shank? Where does that project
Yeah.
go from here?
Well, I'm gonna do a I want to do an old school ash can. I was just gonna wait and do it, but in order for me to really commit to this kind of thing, especially like fully painted like artwork, which I can do probably a few pages a week, but not like a page a day, or at least not until I get good and warmed up and completely focused on the book. So in order for me to like not have to take on other gigs here and there to make scratch, I got thousands of layouts from many books over the course of years of producing this stuff. And I'm a process junkie. I love seeing people's sketches and their layouts and things like that. And I know there's a lot of people like me. So I'm going to make a book of that, of all of my process stuff, layouts and all this stuff for all these various stories, all the Comicsgate stuff I've done, even some of the mainstream stuff, and put that out as a crowdfund to really kind of get the ball rolling with Fund My Comic, because I'm pretty committed to getting that as healthy as possible, so that anybody can go to that, and if they want to include Indiegogo and Kickstarter and all these other things, they can. But I'm very committed to creating another alternative that we will not be excluded from or shadow banned or any of these kinds of things. And so I need to put something out now that will also help generate revenue, so that I can do this book without having to deviate and slow things down. Because like once I start this thing, I do not want people to be waiting years for this. So I want to hit the ground running. So my idea is to like put out this process book, book of layouts and stuff like that, real meaty, 150, 200 pages if I can manage, if I have that much material, and have a stretch goal to do an ash can, like one of the old school ash cans, and my benchmark is always the Pit red cover ash can that came out.
Pit number 4.
No, this is for number 1, the ash can for number 1, where it had
the red one.
Yeah, it had like a preview, just ash can in general. But I want to have like the first 15 pages of it, which I hear is a good size. But that would give you this opening scene. It'll give you the next scene, which gives you like the bad guys and the context of what's happening. And then when we first meet Shank, who's hanging out in Marfa, Texas at this food truck called the Food Shark with his friends. And that kind of sets the ball rolling. And that'll give you a good idea of the world, the characters, and all that. So it just depends on if we manage to reach a stretch goal, which I need to talk with some people, like what's a good number to hit, especially with a new kind of thing, a new platform like Fund My Comic. I don't know that I should make the goal $50,000 before they see a stretch goal. I need to make a much more attainable goal, because I want to give a preview for the book to get people excited about the character and the world and the idea, so that they will be more willing to give a shot on the book when I finally get it done, or at least launch the book later this year. So
yeah, Edwin Acevedo, he's got Raid of the White Leopard on Fund My Comic right now, but right before that, he released the Bloodbone comic, like just the preview ash can for it. It was like a great example of like a very action-packed like ash can that got a lot of excitement, or at least it got me excited. And it sounds like it's a very similar character to Shank, so yeah, that'd be like a cool thing. It sounds like you're trying to show a little bit more expansion of the universe. That one was more just like action-packed from start to beginning. But that can definitely be a really big thing. Yeah.
Well, what's Bancroft saying here? Don't make your stretch goals before your campaign is live? You mean don't announce them?
Yeah, he says plan them.
So you don't feel obligated to hit that goal.
Well, so you can stretch out the campaign a little.
yeah, you either, I'll find out what that benchmark is, but I think that's the real catch, is to make it available. But the goal would be to get that preview book out. I mean, I'm more interested in this particular one of getting this process book out, but that is definitely a stretch goal, and I'm not hiding it. I mean, I don't understand. Hey, David Williams, I don't think that there is a bad thing about it, about saying, look, if we hit this certain point, I definitely want to do this ash can. I don't know. Get Bancroft in here. What the fuck is he talking about? What does it matter?
Craft the link well, right?
I sent him the link, so
You won't
I'm
even
assuming
be able to
busy.
understand him. He's going to speak Australian.
Bancroft is wise. I listened to his counsel.
He might be busy at this time of day. It's like
that's true.
2 in the afternoon or something, 3 in the afternoon.
Dan saying my stretch goal is to touch my toes.
He's got to play the didgeridoo for 30 minutes.
He's playing hooky from work just to hang out in the chat.
Yeah, I'll have to ask him about this kind of stuff. But I'm like, I don't know what is the psychology of not revealing your stretch goal? I mean, isn't that part of the emphasis of getting people to buy the book in order to hit those stretch goals?
If you're very far away from the stretch goal, then it makes people think that the book is not as successful as it could be. And,
I am
maybe
wagging,
it's fizzling.
as we call it. We
Yeah,
don't call it
Bancroft
playing
is
hooky,
here
we
to-
call it wagging.
Wagging.
We call it the waggery, Dave.
We call it going out for
waggery
30
ding
minutes.
dong. Yeah.
Welcome to the slums, Bancroft.
I've been on a well-read show before.
Oh, you have?
Denizens
Okay.
of the slums. Yeah.
He was on with Risey. He's definitely shown some guts.
Hello,
Ah,
Ozzy.
fellow Aussie, yeah.
Yeah, that's worse than me.
Yeah, you can announce as many stretch goals as you want in terms of what you're planning on doing. Absolutely. Get people pumped for that. Just don't say the number amount, because there are plenty of people who have list the whole thing out, all their stretch goals with a number amount. One in particular, I remember, the top one was $100,000 stretch goal. The campaign didn't even hit 13,000. I think it hit like one stretch goal in the whole 60-day period. And they had stretch goals
like a chump
25, 50, 75, 100,000. And it's just like, yeah, you look, even if 13,000, I mean, obviously for this person, they would have thought, well, okay, this is a disappointment. But it's a bad look. It's like Sean Gordon Murphy saying, oh, whether I hit $500,000 or $1 million, whatever it is, now all of a sudden you have a $250,000 campaign and it's a failure. I mean, you don't want that.
Good
but
point.
then alternatively, you could set it too low. And then what's the point of it? The point of a stretch goal is to encourage people to back and push, because there's going to be times in your campaign where it's hard because all of a sudden 3 days in, people just sort of forget who you are. That's what it feels like. You're like, everyone loved me for 2 days, and now everyone's moved on with their life. So you really got to be offering something that'll entice them to come back and think about your campaign. So you got to give them a number that's sort of within reach, on pace. Obviously, you don't want to blow through all your stretch goals in the first week. You want to be able to. So that's why I always usually just announce the dollar amount of the next one, and I do the first one, a week in, because by then I kind of know the pace of the campaign, where it's sort of headed. But yeah, announce the things themselves as much as you want.
Yeah, so when you wait for it to level out, and then you go, "Hey, surprise! You've hit the stretch goal. Here's an."
Well, no, just say your campaign's on 10,000. And the day before that it was on 7,000. I don't think it's unreasonable to put your stretch goal at 15, and shoot for that. But if you put it at 25, that's like people. It's not going to entice anyone because people it's so far away. Waiting. And if you put it at 11, well, then it's just kind of a waste because it was going to hit 11 anyway. So
what do you guys
that's
think
the
about
way
that?
I see it.
If you map out like 100K of stretch goals and your campaign's on like 3K, then it's like an issue.
Who do you think you were? A guy like Ethan can, because he's done so many campaigns. He really he's so established. He knows He knows what sort of minimums he's going to be doing, and so he can kind of do it. But a lot of people, especially for their first time, or it's a new property, especially if it's a new property, no one has any idea really how it's going to go. It could go gangbusters, it could go lukewarm, it could fall on its face. No one really knows.
Yeah, good advice. See why I listen to Mike Bancroft, man. He knows what he's talking. This guy.
Rob
This
and I
guy
have been talking
deals
about
with
this
the,
stuff
like,
for 4 years.
he deals with the numbers, man. I'm like, what's going on with the shorts? And he started breaking it down. He's showing me graphs and all kinds of shit. I'm like, oh my god, this guy's a scientist of this.
You gotta be.
Yeah. It's inspiring, because there is a method to the madness, of the psychology of the sale. I think is really important to kind of learn.
We've learned so much. So I think I've done 50 launches all in all. We learned so much, and we're not geniuses. It's just trial and error.
Right.
Someone will say something at one time, and or do something in the chat, and it'll excite people. So we do it again, and it works. So we start. Let's put your backer number in the chat. Everyone wants to get the top 10 backer numbers, the first 10. And no one expected that, and people come in and they're like, they say, why does anyone care? Why is anyone doing this at the start? And then a month later they're doing it too, because it's fun, and it's part of the moment, and the whole gamification of of selling. That's why Ripper did a sort of faux crowdfund skin on his what's essentially a online store. I mean, it's an online store. It was a pre-sale, sure, but I mean, lots of
but it's the psychology of seeing that number rise.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And having the backer numbers, and it'd be like, because the crowdfunding game works, and it's worked on probably all of us. I know I've been swept up, had no intention of backing a project, and just got totally swept up in the moment of the stream.
See, it's hard for me to get this stuff because I am not sold to very easily. Like I don't get caught up in advertising and sale. I look at something and go, yeah, that looks cool, I'm gonna get that. So like when it comes to that being swept up, I don't get it. So like but I understand that is a thing. So I'm trying to learn these things.
yeah 9 times out of 10 on a launch stream, if we're within striking distance of a big number, so $300 or $400 away from 2,000 or 3,000, 9 times out of 10 we'll get there, and usually in the last 5 minutes.
Okay.
Just because people want to see it get there, they want to be a part of that moment. And like I said, I've definitely been in it as well. I mean, yeah, it might not work on you, but it definitely helps sell a lot of books.
Yeah. And there's nothing wrong with that. I'm like wired differently. I'm sure there's other people like me that and that's why like I'm always approaching this from straight up transparency about like why I'm doing a thing, or why this thing and the other, so that people understand. But there's the impulse buyer, or the person just coming in without having gone through the journey of this kind of thing. I see where that's important, all that stuff.
Yeah. Well, I mean, all this stuff is just getting people over the line. The actual real value is in the person themselves and the book that they're putting out. That's there's a guy called A Drink with Crazy who says it perfectly. He's like, I can only just present the book, as in bring someone a stream. You're the one who has to sell it, the creator. And a guy such as yourself, I mean, you've already laid that groundwork. So I'm expecting some very good things.
Oh shit! Now I gotta produce.
Well, as long as you do the art, and I don't see anything stopping you from doing that.
Isn't connecting with the audience like 80% of the work for this?
Well, yeah. I think so. I read this whole article about whether or not people buy art for the art or for the artist. And I don't know. I think in the comic realm, it's a little bit different, because people latch on to character more than almost anything. But in that realm of fine art, it's largely the artist. They go to these art shows, they meet the artist. The guy's like carving wood with his dick. It's a fascinating story.
Well,
I gotta have a piece by this guy.
in fine art, it's a scam. It's like it's
Yeah.
a click. You know, it's just whoever the denizens of the day decide to pluck out of obscurity. But I think
Right.
in this space, it's a whole, you know, it's all of that stuff together. But who you are and what you've been doing and how like you look at Ripper, no one has ever been able to inspire more people in this scene to support what he's doing. And that's what ISOM 1 was. It was, you know, tens of thousands of people supporting what he's doing. And Ethan had a whole bunch of that as well. But the really amazing thing about Cyberfrog is, and you know, I think this is, people don't talk about this enough or as much, is I do think if Ethan hadn't done Cyberfrog, if he had done something else, I don't think he would have been as big as what he is. There's something about that character, that book, that
It
look
resonates. Yeah.
that
Well,
really landed.
it's immediately identifiable with his brand. It was his first creator-owned property.
Exactly. So you can't just all say, oh, well, it's because Ethan is such a big personality and he's an ex-pro and he had all these viral videos and everything. It's all that, yes, sure, that's a big part of it, but it's also the book. So it doesn't matter if it was Ripper or Ethan or Razorfist. If they had to come out with a slice of life lesbian let's drink coffee in a diner book, it would not, it doesn't matter how popular that, it wouldn't have done as well, obviously.
See, I've been kind of approaching this whole thing from a different angle in that I definitely wasn't into making a quick splash. And a lot of people are like, why is it taking so long for you to do a book? And I'm like, I think I've done more books than most people in Comicsgate combined, you know, but they weren't mine. But my goal is to show that this is not a fly-by-night thing for me, and that I'm here to stay, and I'm here to make something, to grow something, and to make an industry. And maybe I've waited too long. I mean, I definitely could have probably made boatloads of cash had I done this like 3 years ago. But again, that wasn't my purpose. You know, there's like what's that line? There was in 13th Warrior. There's like a bit where this kid is like standing out on the bow of the boat, and they were like, why is he doing that? Well, he's letting everybody know that giving them a chance to figure out if he's real or not, because the mist has phantoms in it. And we've had a lot of people come and go, just making their money and then, or ripping everybody off. And that was really important to me, to like establish myself as someone dependable and someone that is going to be here for the long haul. So, and that's still my goal. And now it's to like put all my emphasis on something that is mine wholly from my own imagination and passions, and hopefully connecting with that audience. So, you know, it's definitely the time now. If it wasn't before, I getting all the signs, you know, from everybody and the universe and everything that's like, you know, do it. All you got to do is do the work. So that's what I'm putting all my energy into now. It's just doing the work and listening to Bancroft because he's wise.
I had the Lucent. You guys are talking about web comics. Lucent was on Webtoon and Tapas when CG all broke out, and yeah, I could have just gone in on that first wave, you know, with Detective Dead and Shinobi Sasquatch, I suppose, and just, you know, tried to ride that insane wave that was cresting, because I was right there in the chat at the time. I could have just pulled it off Webtoon and just stuck it up on Indiegogo that day. But I was like you. I'm like, you know, I was seeing what they were making with Jawbreakers and what Ethan was, you know, it was like, all right. And plus, you know, it had no audience. So I would have been just completely coming along and attaching myself to other people and hoping that they would sort of let me on their boat.
Right.
You know, and I was like, yeah, you can't really do that. You can do that, you know, you can come and network and everything, but you got also, so instead I did the, you know, what everyone was saying at the time is, build your audience, get that set up first, And then also at the time, I was frantically trying to learn how to color a comic properly and, you know, format it and everything as well. So, yeah.
Newsflash, you did.
Yeah, lucky I did. It all worked out in the end. So,
Yeah.
well, it's still going, obviously.
What
There's no
inspired
end.
you to take on that heavy load of just doing it all yourself? Like, why did you want to take on that burden? Because it's a lot to carry, and then to risk doing it all successfully.
Well, it wasn't really a choice. I wanted to make a comic, and I didn't know anyone. I didn't know anyone in comics, not a single person. I had no Twitter followers. I had no YouTube channel. I could get any money.
Bancroft strikes me as like a person like for me it's like an artist in search of a story, in search of an audience, you know. And Bancroft is has a story, and he was in search of all the things in order to make that happen, you know. So he's like, oh, I need to be a better artist, so he figures out how to be a better artist. Oh, I need to get an audience, so he figures out how to get an audience. And so it's like everything is in service of this story that's in him that he needs to tell. And that's
absolutely everything.
Yeah.
How intimidating was that, though, to take that on?
You don't do it all at once. It's still intimidating. The mountain ahead of me right now is terrifying. There's no way I could ever see the top of it. It's so high above me. But you know, even over the last years, you know, I've come up a long way. Like I said, I had no Twitter followers, no YouTube channel, no book. And you know, and since then I've probably drawn 150 pages, having never drawn a single one before. That's fully drawn and colored. And you know, now I have a pretty decent channel, so I've got 12,000 subs and everything. But you do just what you can that day. Now I do work an obscene amount of hours in a day. It's like 12 to 15 or something. But
I ask everybody how they organize their day. And Bancroft, I asked him, I was like, how do you do this, man? And he's like, I just don't give myself a choice. I just do it, you know, like it has to be done. So I do it.
Yeah. Because there's one moment that I allow myself, and it's at 5 a.m. in the morning as I'm like wrenching myself out of bed. And I stumble, and I have to put my alarm away from me. Otherwise, I'll just hit snooze if I'm in bed. I have to put it away. So I have to physically get up, walk over to the alarm to turn it off. And then there's that moment where I say, do I really want to do this, or can I just go back to bed for another hour? And I say the same thing almost every day. I think if you don't get out there right now and start working, you're not going to have a comic. So
he's driven,
and then I start.
You're like an Olympian, like, you know, training for goals.
Look, it's just habit. I mean, you know, it sounds all cool when you say it like this, but it's just you just get out there and.
He's got the comic bug, man. He's got it.
Yeah.
Do something cool and have fun doing it, and you know, he's making it happen. Very inspiring to me.
Yeah, maybe we fall because sometimes down there's something we're meant to find.
I stole that off Google, all right? I didn't come up.
ChatGPT might have helped a little bit with that one. Yeah. No, that's cool. That's a lot of dedication.
Yeah,
That's
for real. Yeah, it's crazy.
Have you guys reviewed Lucid?
Really?
We did, yeah.
Did. To answer your question in a really fun foundational way, what else am I going to be doing?
That was my thing.
Do? You know,
where
not
am I
make
go?
a comic or just, I don't know, play video games or whatever. Like, if it doesn't work, oh well. You know, I've got my family, I've got, you know, my friends, my life, and everything. But why not try? Just give it a go. Like, if I fall flat on my face, well, at least I had a go. You know, I would much more regret looking back in 5-10 years and never having taken the leap because I could have failed than just, oh, we'll see how we go. People like what I'm doing, so I'll keep doing that. Try and get better.
You believe very strongly in this story that you've decided to commit so much of your time to?
I have. You would have.
It's one of the classic tales of our time, right?
Exactly right. It's the great Australian novel. I mean, yeah, obviously. I mean, I fully believe in it, fully behind it. And I think it's amazing. It's gonna, the only unfortunate thing about it is, my circumstance, in that, I work full time and it just takes a long time to get it out there. But
What do you do, by the way? Have you told anybody
graphic
what you
design.
do? Oh, okay.
Graphic
That's not
design.
too far from. That's not bad.
Yeah, no, I work with a tablet, and I also do photo, manipulation and stuff, color correction and stuff like that. So
See, that was always hard for me to like do a day job of drawing, and then on my spare time, I'm drawing. Like I would much rather like one of my favorite time periods is when I was a projectionist at a movie theater, and I do that job, and you have your set things you do, and then you come home and you do a few hours of like drawing comics, and you kind of unwind from the day by enjoying things. But now that's all drawing. Like every minute I'm like, they're like, why don't you come on the show and talk about your comics? I'm like, oh God, I'd love to go, plant something or anything other than comics. So, but
that's the hidden benefit of doing it all yourself. I don't always feel like drawing, so sometimes you can do flatting or coloring or something. It is those sort of breaks are.
That's why I end up with 12 different projects. Like I'm coloring Aaron Lopresti. I'm doing covers for this or that. I'm doing my own book. It's just to keep things interesting and lively at any given time. I can always move to something else.
Kelsey's
there's always
memories.
Cutting porn.
Yeah, I was gonna say Kelsey would cut in porn like Tyler Durden to the movie. These are my fondest memories.
No, I definitely used to take out frames of like the nude scenes from movies. You take one frame out and pass it around to everybody, just because.
In a long coat, you'd open you'd be up with that trench coat and open it up and say,
"Yeah, I got all these film frames. What do you want? You want what's her name from Titanic? I got that. I got those boobies.
Yeah, Kate Winslet. You got fun
Kate
somehow.
Winslet? Yeah,
got full bush here.
Yeah,
it's better than Cecil DMing everybody big black dongs. And,
yeah.
Or Anna. I don't know what's worse. Anna's posting transition photos where somebody got a big hunk of thigh meat turned into a penis. I was like, do not click this link. And then all of a sudden Cecil's in there going, oh my God, why did I click the link? Had I said click it, you'll love it. He probably would have avoided it,
Yeah.
Just Cecil once again dying for our sins.
Yeah.
So what's the top of this mountain look like that you guys are striving for? What's it look like for you, Michael?
Well, at the moment, it's really just the complete arc is done. It's out. I have the book. It's finished, really. Anything beyond that is, you daydream. Kelsey was talking about, we become the mainstream. Mm-hmm. I agree with that 100%. I've never been sort of like anti-mainstream as if mainstream is this thing over there. The mainstream is just what's popular. Yeah. And there were, musical movements and art movements, of decades past that started out in garages and everything that became mainstream. I would love to see that. I'd love to see animations and TV shows and movies and, really hit the culture. But at the moment, the top of the mountain is really just the book, and that's a hell of a lot of pages I got to draw.
Yeah, where did they start out again?
What's that? Sorry,
who's they?
Where did they start out?
Who's they?
Who's they?
And garages, the mainstream.
Yeah.
Garages. Why is that?
Oh, is that where they started?
No. The mainstream. What?
The garage.
The garage? Did I say garage?
Yeah,
I don't know. Garage. Garage.
I'm just shitting on your accent. I'm sorry. In the garage,
like Steve Jobs, and Wozniak in the.
That's a fake story. He was a rich kid.
Whatever. Doesn't matter. Whatever it is, or even go back to
I tell you what, the top of my mountain has nothing to do with me. It's about. I mean, like Bancroft's saying, of course, the immediate goal is to just handle what's in front of you, and that's all you can really deal with. But the ultimate dream, if we're daydreaming here, is to have an industry for comics and just pop culture where it is healthy enough to bring in that young, hopeful individual that creates the next great thing that changes the world, like George Lucas or Star Wars, or like anything great that we love. And that's just not going to happen as long as it's broken like this. So and that's the ultimate goal for me, is to get all this healthy, have a lot of people, have kids get their face out of fucking video game and maybe check out a comic book here and there, and just have it be a part of the overall zeitgeist of entertainment again.
But what about the next multiracial paraplegic lesbian?
If it's a good story, whatever,
She can come in. She can
Story?
take part.
What the hell is the story?
Yeah.
We have it actually feels kind of like a pipe dream at the moment, but we have two really good examples of this being a case in Japan and in France and Belgium, to a certain degree. That's what it's like. That they have kids and adults and old people all reading books, and
in Japan,
it's
old ladies reading books about making the best steak.
Korea.
Hey, so we lose somebody?
Moonshine, he's checked out.
Oh,
bedtime.
okay.
Yeah. Thanks, Moonshine.
He's had
Have a
enough
good
of
night.
our
Yeah, thanks.
He's a working stiff.
Yeah, same
Yeah.
here.
A lot of the I said this a bunch of times, a lot of this kind of we theorize about how to do this. Is it winning the culture war? Is it doing things like the shorts that I'm doing, or the videos, or Ethan's streams and all this sort of stuff? And it's not just one thing or anything, but Kelsey's 100% right in that the only way that it's going to really break out is if we make just stuff that is undeniably awesome on the face of it, to the point where you'll get naysayers. You look at all Ripper's naysayers and everything, and that comes with popularity. But when it gets to the point where, like, no, this is undeniably awesome and good, and everyone loves it who sees it, they're into it. If we get a whole bunch of stuff like that, then that's the only real way to kind of break out of the restrictions that are sort of placed on us.
Douglas Mikes on top of Kelsey's mountain, two chicks at the same time.
How does that work on top of a mountain? I hope it's a big mountain.
That's the real secret
Hilarious.
dream, though.
Yeah.
We pontificate
Always.
and act real highfalutin about our ambitions about dismantling the mainstream. Really, we just want that two-chick orgy. So.
Two chicks
Yeah.
at the same
Well, that's
time.
the thing. If you're
Oh,
a
yeah,
man,
bro.
I mean,
Yeah, you don't need to
that's
be a
what's
millionaire to
behind
hook
it
that up.
Yeah, but you want it clean, right?
Yeah. Yeah, true.
Hey,
What were you
Pete,
saying,
watch your
Bancroft?
cornhole.
Yeah.
Well, like from an evolutionary psychology perspective, that's the basis of all this. That's why men do the things
Sure.
that they do. They try
Absolutely.
to get laid. Oh, they're married. They want to stay getting laid.
I led a
Uh-uh.
revolution in comics. Ooh, yeah.
I'm a little different in that I really just want enough. I don't know how to put it. I guess power, money, freedom to just do what I want to do and entertain people the way I want to entertain them. I hate all the restrictions. You can't do this, you can't do that, you can't sell to these people. These people do this. These people, it's like, oh man, just shut up. Just let me do my thing. And success, I think, brings a certain level of being able to do what you want to do. And the danger for me is to just not be lazy in the face of success. If I'm making a lot of money, boy, I'm going to be real tempted to I got money in the bank. Let me just blow off today. And I can see how a lot of these people that do have success are driven to keep going, because you only got this one time to make it work. So I don't know, it'll be finding like a unique balance of having that freedom to do my own thing, but also not being complacent with it, and two chicks at the same time.
Well, I think first you get the money, and then you get the power, and then
You fall into
you
a
get the
deep
women.
hole.
Then you get the 2 women at the same time.
Yeah.
I don't want to be melodramatic, but I kind of believe in the human voice, and like I like agree with that whole idea of dismantling and flattening the mainstream, because I think culture shouldn't be something contrived and formulated. Like you should be exploring the human soul in literature and in film and in music.
Mhm.
It
That's what it's
shouldn't
for.
be, yeah, it shouldn't be some like pre-produced, bullshit, mass consumed crap thing. It should be identifiable. Like you should find something of yourself in it. And
Yeah, I
it's
mean,
you're not seeing
art
that at
is
all
to make
anymore.
manifest the things that lie deep within us.
Yeah.
Mm.
It's that
Yeah, that's why actually I don't feel bad doing the whole short thing. And I know a lot of guys are over it. I'm over it a lot too, a lot of the time. I don't want to listen to it anymore, for the day.
Just not the
But-
millions of people viewing your shorts. That's
Yeah, I'm not over that. That's right. Yeah. And
it's all in service of your story.
exactly. Yeah. So I mean that's the selfish side of it. But speaking to what Railroad was just saying, that is true. And I read through I read pretty much every comment I get. And there's still so many people who are just so I don't know, what are they? They're lackadaisical, or they don't know any better, or whatever it is. They just accept this state that we're in right now in pop culture and art, and just that's what it is. And there's so many more people out there who kind of haven't woken up to what's going on than they already have. And I've been in this sort of, whether you want to call it a culture war or whatever, since at least 2011 or something. So I get the fatigue. Trust me, I get it. Sometimes I don't want to deal with it either. But
well, that's why I'm kind of like on the fence about it. It's like, on one hand, I do believe we need to start talking more about the things that we love, but on the other hand, I was hand in hand, even though I wasn't canceled. I saw friends of mine, people that I feel were being mistreated or treated unfairly, like Ethan, like John Malin, and all these people that were literally thrown out, for no good damn reason. And then you see all the weird shit. I mean, you watch any of Bancroft's shorts and you're like, what the fuck is happening to society? It's just like, it definitely needs to be pointed out. It definitely needs to be, at least stood up against, because they will, as soon as you slow down and you stop and you get complacent, they'll railroad right over us, and
they're relentless.
Yeah,
Absolutely
they're not
relentless.
going to stop. They have to be,
and they
defeated.
have tactics too. So that there's that thing I love bringing up, which is, I can't remember who said it, comedian guy. It's the tactic of small steps, where they say, he used the example of the smoking section, where originally they come up and say, can you smoke over there in that corner of the restaurant? So everyone like picks up their plate and goes over there, and they're like, oh, actually we're gonna have it in just a room. So they put you in a different room, and then you go in that room. They're like, oh, you know what? Now it's just gonna be, you're gonna be outside, or at the bar or something. And bit by bit, and then eventually it's like, no, you can't smoke anywhere. You can't even smoke anywhere, within 100 feet of the restaurant or something. And then it's illegal to smoke in the city. So it's like every single step doesn't seem like too much of an inconvenience compared to the last one. But if you go back to the original, how it was, you see, oh, wow, they've really kind of overturned everything. And they do that in everything. And they're relentless, and they'll fail. So they'll try and push the next little wedge. So they're like tapping in that wedge, trying to get that door open a bit more. And they'll fail. and the society will push back, and then they'll just wait. They'll wait 6 months, and they'll be back doing it again. So you really do have to push back, constantly, which is very tiring. And I wouldn't even want you, Kelsey, to join that fight, because you don't want to do it, and I don't want you to become bitter and angry.
Right. Well, I feel the way Unhinged does. He just said that he's not as articulate about how to speak about these things, so he lets other people do while he does cool art. And I've often referred to myself as I'll be the USO, or I'll be the guy cooking the chow in the back, and just support the people that do, because like you and like Ethan, I've heard you guys articulate these things so well that even if I didn't believe, I couldn't believe anybody wouldn't understand what you guys are talking about, because you're putting it so clearly that if you're not, you're either being willfully ignorant, or you are just fucking off your rocker. I don't know how you don't see what's happening here. So, and I, like Unhinged, I'm just not that. I can see myself, if I got into that fight, I'll say some shit that can be twisted around, and used against me. And I'm like, that I'll be more of a detriment to this thing.
Yeah, even worse than that is you start getting angry, and then that all of it is
that's
about,
me.
you're just another angry guy. You just
right.
We don't need that. Like, that's why Ethan is so successful with it. He starts his videos off with his laughing man thing, and that's just the perfect setup. This is, you gotta laugh at it, because that's the weapon that they gave up, which is humor. You notice there hasn't been a good comedy come out since 2008. That's what they gave up to have this woke utopia, is they gave up humor. But we can still have that. We can still use that. Yeah, that was it. And Tropic Thunder, that was that year. Step Brothers was that year.
Wow.
And that was a long fucking time ago. Sorry to swear.
No, go for it. It's the slump.
What do you mean? Yeah.
Oh no, sorry.
And you need to be able to sort of laugh at this stuff. Otherwise, you're going to drive yourself insane. And if the whole thing is in service of what you're creating, like it is with me, like it is with Ethan, like it is with, I think, all of us here in CG, especially, we're here to make cool shit.
Entertain.
And entertain. Yeah. You don't want to become that angry guy, with veins popping, just screaming about stuff and not doing anything.
It's a constant fight, man. Every day I'm like confronted with shit that it's unnerving. I can't. I don't even go to the main Twitter anymore. I read, I read people who I know, and I read my my notes and all that. But every once in a while, I'll hit that home button, and it's just fucking. It's a nightmare. It's a nightmare. I don't know.
It can be, yeah.
I mean, on the surface of it, just to look at it, it looks like, society as we know it is crumbling hard. So it's like, I can't let that in, because I'll lose it. I'll lose my mind. So I got to pour everything I got into this, every passion I got, every concern I have, and just make cool art out of it, because that's all I can do,
Yeah.
It's gotten dark out there on Twitter. That's a recent thing too. I don't know. Maybe I've just got to start unfollowing more people.
Well, the strange irony is that there's no more limitations on it. This is unhinged, unadulterated, unfiltered view of how things truly are, and it's terrifying. There's like cops getting shot in the head in broad daylight. There's people ripping off places. There's just weird things are going on to like an unnerving level. And you realize how much that was being censored before. How long has this been going on? And we just haven't been privy to it, because it's been censored from us, or altered or changed in some way through the media and through all these systems of control. And, and I have no idea if Elon is actually a good guy or not, but him taking the shackles off of that and letting us kind of see the reality of it. And man, I don't know if that's helping or hurting. What's up, Mike?
I think it helps. I mean, there's definitely an escalation. So
I think we have to have the truth, even as dark as it is. We have to know what's really going on.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I'm not going to trust a South African billionaire from an emerald mine
I don't think we should
dynasty.
trust
but
anybody like that.
At the same time, it's still better than it used to be.
Yeah. I'd rather know. I'd rather know. Yeah. Anyway, not to get all dark about it. I do see a possible good outcome of all this, but the pessimist in me says it's not going to come without a fight.
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, like a real fight. So we'll see where it happens. Until then, I'm just going to enjoy myself, make comics, laugh, drink, be human.
Yeah.
well, that's the thing is like we got to remember our role in all of this is we're the entertainers, and if things do get dark, we're providing light throughout that process. And in the 1920s, when things were at their worst, there was depression and economic despair. There were still people out there dancing, creating music, creating life, creating art, and giving people a reason to hope. So if we get back to creating in a way that expresses the human soul and the human spirit more authentically, that's the best contribution that we could possibly make if things get dire.
Mm-hmm.
So,
well said. Well said. Well read.
Mike
You're not an entertainer. Let's bring the splash of cold water back here.
Yeah. You don't know what I've got going on, Mike. Don't give me a hard
He's
time.
actually a showgirl in his day job.
Exactly. Vegas. Yeah, I work that pole, just like any decent showgirl. Yeah. But anyway, better days ahead, guys. So
I don't know. Until then, I'm having fun. I'm enjoying making cool stuff. Enjoying hanging out with all y'all. I love the chat. My show, I do a show Monday through Thursday now at 11 on my channel, and it even if I'm feeling miserable, like as soon as that show starts and I start talking to the people in the chat, it completely turns that around, and I'm having a good time. So to me, this is all like keeping me sane to a certain degree, keeping me focused on what's in front of me.
Absolutely, that's all we can do.
Mm-hmm.
So work our little corner of the world.
Make sure I think everybody's left. I think it's just you and me now.
No, I'm here. Sorry,
okay.
That's how I'm working.
He's drawing his cereal box off.
Here somewhere.
Our viewership keeps going up, though. We're almost up to 50 people right now.
I'll shut my trap and just let Kelsey talk.
Should we keep going until we hit 50? What can we do for 50?
Somebody want to promote something? Get a little bit of sales going.
I just did my little show. Check out Battle Brick Road on Kickstarter. Our man Eric Weathers, who I feel we owe a great debt of gratitude, and because without him, we could have some real shitty ass lettering in all these books, and him lettering all these books and bringing a sense of quality and professionalism to it really kind of elevates what we're doing here. So. I feel very grateful for Eric Weathers here, and he's got a great book out there called Battle Brick Road, which I just did a cover for. Here, I'll share it real quick.
We just did a deep dive on it. I reread it for the deep dive, and man, it's a great book. Him and Zeb, they really knocked it out of the park on that one.
Let me see if I can get this all into frame here.
Here's the campaign.
There's the full.
Oh, let me bring up your thing.
Yeah, this is for the re-release. Oh, what happened?
You got the Zoom going on there.
That's
Beasley. Simon.
That's all I saw. Yeah.
Give me the bird.
Oh, here it is. Okay.
Give me the biz.
Yeah. So this is for the reissue of the first issue, and then he's about to release issue 2 of it. So, and I think I drew some great tits in this piece. So,
well, I'm looking at the shine on those titties. That's
dude. This is like I'm giving old Jaime Soriyama or whatever his name is. I thought my metal came out pretty good. Tasty.
Yeah. I remember
Yeah.
trying to do digital painting back in about 2008, 2009, trying to do shiny metal and just pulling my hair out. It's
Yeah. Well, I can show you a real easy trick. I just color it like a normal comic, and then I scribble some fading in there, and it looks like a painting. It's pretty easy, actually. The hard part is when you do that, and then you get down to the details of it. Like, oh,
And then
I
you got
can't
these
just hack out
artifacts
this hair. I got to make
still
it look
left in
right.
there.
Yeah, I gotta. Yeah, you can start see if you get real close, you can see.
Yeah.
Kind of where it
But I
breaks
like all
down
that
a
stuff.
bit.
I like all that
I do
stuff
too.
when it's
Hey.
when it's supposed to be a painting. It's supposed to look like that's the stuff I look for when I see a digital painting. I'm looking for those artifacts.
This is how it starts. Just like a simple comic or animation with the one thing, and then you just kind of blend into the shadows. You add your bounce light or edge lighting, fill light. It's very simple concepts that it's just it's easy to understand what it is and how to do it. It's a whole different thing when you get to the complexity of a piece like this, where this lighting should be affecting this lighting is affecting this, and you got to make it all balanced. But that just comes with time and doing these little simple techniques over and over and over. So which Bancroft is doing, I see him figuring it out. I think if you wanted to paint,
I'm
you could do
actually
it.
when I get my when I get the cover I'm working on done now, which I'm hoping to get done in a couple of days, I'll be jumping right back into a new digital painting. So I like them. They take a long time though. It's a whole different way of.
This is taking me about a month to do, and every one that I do for Zach takes like a month or two. The one for Expendables took several months. It's just some of the most intensive stuff I do, and I don't know what it is about digital that requires just that extra effort to make work, whereas I can do a painting by hand in 20 minutes that satisfies me way more than any digital piece. So
Kenneth talked about that to me on a stream once, and he said I can work digital, but he's just so much faster traditional.
Yeah.
And I was like, what, really? And then he started breaking it down. I was like, yeah, you're so right. There's a lot of just micro faffing that goes with digital.
Just try to draw a circle digital, and you'll understand.
Yeah.
And grab a pen and a template and be done in a second and by hand. But man, you got to like jerk it off to get it to work on a computer.
There's just a whole bunch of little stuff. So it all adds up over a period of time. So, he was just saying, I'm so much quicker to just grab my pen, grab a brush.
Speaking of jerk off, Mike. Sorry.
What's up, buddy?
What's happening, man?
Yo, great entrance, Mike.
Well, I figured you need my camera on because you dropped the link so any jackass could show up. But,
I saw somebody named Casual Bigot in the back, and I was
showed
like,
up instead. Yeah,
Casual Bigot.
No more penises, please.
Oh, jeez.
That was
all right. Well, now it's time to close. See you guys.
Wrap it up.
Catch you later.
How you been, Mike? How's your book going, man?
I am. What the hell number am I on? I'm dude. I only got like 13 pages left on this freaking monster.
Nice.
If you're talking about Shadow the Conqueror too,
yeah,
that's like, yeah, dude. Freaking
that's like the big thing.
And we bumped it up to 125 pages because I mispaginated a double page spread, so I had to add another splash page.
Ooh,
so it's 125 pages, man.
Been there.
That's the disappointment. You're like, oh, but what?
It's like, oh man, I get paid for another page. Damn.
Hey, congratulations on getting Monster Hunt out there. I've been seeing people showing me some photos of Monster Hunt.
Yeah, glad to get that out there. Thank you for your wonderful cover, Kelsey.
Dude, I still like it. I think it's one of the better ones I've done.
Yeah,
a lot of fun.
It was cool. There's the guy I'm using for fulfillment has kind of pulled the plug, and we're switching to another guy. So the rest of it, once that gets settled, the rest of them should go out pretty post haste,
right on,
as
man.
they say. So yeah, what you working on there?
Who?
You? You're the only
Me?
one with art on the screen.
I'm working
Yeah.
on a coronary. I'm working on liver disease. No, this is Shank. This is a character I'm kind of like doing of my own thing. That's just like something just from the gut, not trying to be realistic, not trying to be anything other than a cool comic book. And I think we get lost in the idea of like it's going to be a movie, it's going to be a thing, it's going to be something else. And I've always latched on to, even though I'm not a huge fan of Alan Moore, he did have a mission to create comics that can only exist as a comic, and I like that. So that's kind of a part of what I'm trying to do. And if anybody wants to make, like, I have this goal that's like, we have no budget. We have no budget. We can make things as big as we want.
Right.
And let them figure out how to put it on camera. I ain't doing their work for them.
Yeah, you want something that people would say, everyone thought it was impossible to put to film.
Exactly.
Something like that.
Like Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
Well,
Big.
that was the target that George R. R. Martin had for the whole Song of Ice and Fire series. He's like, I want to do something that they can never make into a movie, and they couldn't. And what's funny is before HBO came to him, he would license the book series out to different movie studios and stuff, and they would, because they'd see, oh, this is this great selling fantasy thing, and then they'd pay for the license and they'd get it, and then they'd realize they couldn't do it as a movie, and then the option would lapse, and then he'd sell it to the next guy. And then finally HBO came around, they had just done Rome, and George loved Rome.
That was pretty badass show.
Yeah, and they said, we want to do Game of Thrones like we did Rome, and then they backed it. He said, quote, yeah, they backed a truckload of money up to my house. And so
yeah.
So he took that deal, yeah.
That's the top of my mountain. That and two chicks at the same time. Yeah. Truckloads of money.
Top of your mountain is just
is that one cooking, one cleaning?
Yeah, exactly. Now you're talking.
Let's go.
All right. Well, I got to get to bed because, like, I got to do my show that I'm pretty committed to these days. Nice and early for me, the crack of noon or the crack of 11.
Yeah, I got my 15th job interview tomorrow. So
what?
You're
gonna keep at
unemployed?
It didn't
I'm
work
not
out.
unemployed. No,
Not
I'm
employed.
I'm always looking for something better. That's all.
Wow.
Oh, okay.
Don't tell your employers.
Yeah, that's why I can drink before going on one. Like I've had so much practice, I can do it in my sleep at this point. Yeah, I love that. I'm just nailing all of these interviews and not getting any offers. So it's awesome.
I think
wonder
maybe
why.
you're hungover and you're not actually nailing them.
It just feels like it.
It's all in my mind.
I told that dude. Yeah.
I've mastered my craft. I've seen my mountaintop, guys. It's lovely.
nice up here.
Yeah.
Well, good luck with that. I hope you find a good one.
I will find the one or two, as the saying goes. All right, guys. So it's been great. Thank you, everybody, for joining. Thank you, Kelsey, for the interview, and it's been a wonderful discussion. Really enjoyed talking about the book tonight. Admiral Wackass Moonshine. Of course, Michael Bancroft and Mike Miller. Thank you so much. We'll be back soon. We've got tons of books stacked up. I do have a Monster Hunt. Mike provided me a copy, so we do need to get on that at some point.
Yeah. I got to go pee. I'll be right back.
I thought you were leaving.
Yeah, that's part of the outro.
Respite.
Urination is always included in outros. So unzipped on Thursday, guys. So I'll see you all real soon. Have a good night.
Good night.
Bye.